So how do we fucking start these at this point?
I think like that was a fairly
we've run out of small
good
talk.
impression. I was kind of thinking that like I mostly lean on you. I mean, in every aspect of this podcast, but like, it'll be like a couple of crazy things happened to me on my way to the studio here today, Sam. I'm like, oh, what, Josiah? Tell me about it. And you opening that way like fills me with terror for the next year. Like, just like what's left?
Well, I gotta admit to you, I actually haven't been going to a studio this whole time. I've just been actually in my home. They got the technology now. You can just do right into your computer. Well, you can just do it that way.
I knew you were recording from home previously, but then we obviously had a lot of conversations about audio quality on this podcast, and I thought we agreed that you were going to, that we were going to use the Patreon money, put in some effort, and sort of get you into a proper kind of soundproof booth, like me.
I took out a personal loan from you.
Yeah, line of credit.
I will give you a breakdown of how I spent that after we talk, but.
Sick. So
why in that scenario? Why would I be the only one to get? Okay, actually, no, I'm not going to talk about this.
What the fuck? Now I'm really intrigued. Well, no, because I'm implying that I'm already in a soundproof studio, like that I've already done.
Actually, I will talk about this. I am going to talk about this. Something that's actually. You asked if there's any housekeeping, and there is, and it's actually existed for a really long time. But the sound that I made with my mouth off the top is related to that. I don't remember when this was, maybe like a year ago at this point, but somebody pointed out that there was a fart sound in one of our episodes.
Really?
Yeah. There's I think Marsden pointed it out, and then I was talking to my friend D-Beat Chris, who is now my friend actually, not just a fan. And so let
this be inspiration to all fans, like maybe one day you two can cross over and become a true friend.
Which is also, have you noticed it's really easy to be friends with people who listen to the pod because you don't have to say anything because we're already saying it all right here. You don't have to do anything.
I've said this probably on the pod and definitely in my real life, which is that every time we've met people who listen to the podcast in real life, it's I do genuinely feel like I'm immediately friends with these people, but it's because we have a shared interest, which is me. And so already we're off on the right foot.
Exactly. But anyways, Chris remembered it too. I wish I remember what episode, but there is a phantom fart on the pod. And I remember, I never told you about this forever. But when Marsden told me about it, I actually opened up, it was one of the weeks that I edited, and I opened up the file and I was able to see whose half of the recording it is. So I know who dealt it.
I'm positive it was me, right?
Why are you positive?
Just because I'm a gassy boy.
Well, I mean, I obviously am too, but who isn't, really?
Right, I was going to say, my consumption habits, it's sort of what happens. But you have similarly, even though your consumption habits are clean in many ways, they're certainly not, causing gastronomical distress, right?
Right. I mean, I was hoping that you would sort of be more mysterious about it, and then we could keep it hidden.
Oh, okay. No, I've never farted, Josiah.
Yeah, it was you, but it's a very nice waveform. It looks really. It seems like you aimed the mic at your butt while you did it.
What kind of fart was it?
It was actually, we were just talking about the movie The Lighthouse. It was one of those really tight. Just a tight little blast.
Sick. I believe it, especially because I might have thought that I was doing something quite silent. The thing is, because I'm recording this with earbuds in. And so because they're kind of effectively similar, I don't hear a lot of what's happening around me. And so me being I'm just going to sneak one out real quick here and instead blasting something that you can see a waveform of. My butt is several feet away from the microphone in this studio that I go to every single day.
So you are using a studio,
of course. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they mic your sphincter for this.
Yeah, it's a test. The idea is I'm really not supposed to, but it's people breaking on SNL. You're not supposed to, but it's ultimately better when they do. Everyone likes my little farts.
Have you ever taken a work call while you're in the bathroom or anything like that?
I struggle with that one only because the fact of the matter is that like the way that sound, refracts in bathrooms is always very bathroomy sounding. And like, I feel like I've been on the other end of calls where I can tell that someone's like in the toilet.
Someone's shit.
And I'm also convinced that like the mute button doesn't work.
Yeah,
like
true.
Even if I'm on a call and I mute, like I'll still whisper because I'm like, it's none of this technology is working for me. And so the idea of like just like blasting out turds, like also trying to close deals,
which is in a way its own form of closing a deal.
Yeah, truly.
The deal that you've made with whatever you ate.
Yeah. The deal that I made with those chimichangas. So yeah. What about you? Do you do a lot of calls on the toilet?
No, not really. I mean, I do some slacking, of course.
Yeah, I love to work
Obviously.
on the toilet.
The thing
do you
is,
bring your
like,
laptop in?
No, I've never done
Really?
that, and I've never brought the Switch in either because I feel like that's crossing a line.
Yeah, the Switch seems weird to me.
I don't know why.
But like a productivity tool. Like I don't do it as much anymore. When I used to work from home, like I always bring the toilet into the computer.
You bring the toilet to the laptop.
Yeah, I'm fucking
I bring the
lawnmower
toilet
man,
to
baby.
the laptop, wearing my Depend, no S. I bring the toilet to the laptop.
Yeah, thank you for respecting brands there.
People think my whole aesthetic is intentionally all caps as some sort of like pretentious thing. But the reason I always write everything all lowercase, not the opposite. I'm always all lowercase because I've even switched my phone to that so that no matter what device I'm using, you can't tell. So at any given moment when I'm messaging you, I could be shitting and you have no idea.
That's a cool mystery. and this speaks to something I was thinking about earlier today, and that ties into what you were saying about, us just having nothing left to say as we round out the sort of final year of this project, which is demonstrably not true based on, like, I think last week we were like, yeah, it's crazy. This is like a 7-hour episode. But I was thinking about some observation that someone had, and forgive me because I forget who it was, which is that especially early on in the pod, we'd always sort of remind people that you and I weren't friends and talk about what the podcast was about, which was ostensibly Blink-182, but more so, whatever, mortality and yada, yada, yada. And their take was like, it's very cute that you don't think that like the podcast is really just about you two like becoming friends. And that's really the core narrative of the pod. And so I was thinking about that for some reason a couple of days ago. It's like, yeah, this is like a remarkable document of you and I getting to know each other. And now we're at the point where, like, literally I'm messaging you about shitting, and now we're talking about shitting into microphones together. Like, we've officially reached the end of the road, I think.
It's true. Yeah, this did kind of start with you messaging me earlier about your stools.
Yeah,
today.
yeah. So I put like stooly energy out into the discourse, and this is what I have. I am reaping
Stooly,
it now.
Isn't that a person who likes that Barstool website?
Yeah, that's what they're called, stoolies.
God.
Now,
you do have stooly energy.
Thank you.
I'm joking. Calm down.
Yeah, man.
Barstool is bad.
Yeah,
right?
Barstool's bad.
Okay, just clarify.
I was curious a little bit though, like as I was kind of describing my stool to you in, again, chat detail that's only available on the Patreon tier. Whether you found because we have talked a lot about your stool on the pod before, and of course consistency changes based on diet, based on sort of intake, and I've sort of accepted a certain degree of messiness just due to my hobbies and interests. And I was curious, like for you, like how your stool has changed since you became so.
Oh, really?
Too early?
No, go for it.
Sober.
I know I messed up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a four-leaf clover, but let me call you when I'm sober.
I was gonna do a thing where I said that there's so many different kinds of vet clinics now.
How the fuck are you going to get to that? I'm sure you would have figured it out.
I don't know. I would have found a way.
Yeah.
But I was going to say there's a kind of vet now that's only for male dogs, and it's called the Son of a Bitch Emergency Room. SOBER.
Oh, my God.
But it's okay. You already did it, so we'll edit out mine.
Yeah. Never let that one out into the world, man.
I feel great. Honestly, everything feels better since I've become sober. It's like physically, it's insane.
Well, listen, we'll get into that, but right now we got to introduce the
you
song.
Asked me.
I did.
You want to know about
Thank
my
you for the
poopies?
answer. Yeah, but it was a hypothetical question. You know, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, but look, This is the new part of. We're at that phase now. My brother used to. I mean, this should come as a surprise to no one who's listened to the. I forget. This is so long ago, but there's a Sclusy that's like about the Passion of the Christ soundtrack.
Yeah, and he talks about the glass jerk-off glove.
Yeah, my brother. But anyways, so it should come as no surprise if you listen to that. But he used
him
to
being able to come would be a surprise to me based on the description of that jerk-off glove.
He used to frequently send me photographs of his shit in great detail at all times.
Brothers are cool.
How do you know?
I've seen movies. So the song Sober by the band Blink-182, Josiah, this is the last song on California that you and I will be discussing. Last week we put California Deluxe to bed. We're now putting the entire album to bed with this song. So once again, it fills me with a series of incredibly complex and hard to parse emotions that really run the gamut from great relief to deep, true sadness. And there's also an opportunity here to discuss something that's always been kind of a part of the pod, which is your sobriety, and of course our guest this week also sober, and so that's going to be a theme. But just to start off, what is your take on the song "Sober" by the band Blink-182?
Well, I guess to answer everything at once.
If you could. Just wrap this thing up real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, punk. What is it? Nobody knows. Really, that's my new thing constantly lately, is just saying a noun and then saying, what is it? Is that how you... did I become a real journalist in the last few months? Because I think that's all it is, right?
At the very least, you could get a job in the new Globe and Mail opinion section.
I think I told you this in chat, but I was really tempted to do one of those Brooklyn media Twitter style feel sorry for my friend that just got laid off posts about Don Cherry this week.
It would have been really funny. Just be always the best, let's get this man a job.
You'd be an idiot not to hire him. Which is actually true. I mean, he's fucking trending like crazy. We got to get Don Cherry on the pod.
We got to get Don Cherry on the pod. Do you think he's ever heard Blink-182? He probably has.
Well, the real question is, and maybe everyone should weigh into this, because I think, I'm always having these ethical quandaries about who to ask on and whatnot. Should I get Larry Heather on the pod, at least for a Sclusy?
Yes.
Because he's going to say some reprehensible shit, and it's going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also, don't you want to know what he thinks of Blink-182?
I do. I really do.
He can't be worse than Drew.
No,
the audio doctor.
Yeah. I think we got to get Ed the Sock, Larry Heather, and Don Cherry. I think we just got to dig into the worst of this fucking country. And Mike Bullard.
Because we are representing Canada to the globe right now.
I think so.
We don't want to misrepresent. We don't want everyone to think that it's just all you can edit in something good from Canada.
Right.
I don't think it's all that.
Listen, because you and I are such wise, considerate, progressive, just perfect allies, I think people outside of Canada might, even though we joke about the problems that this country has, might be getting a distorted image of who Canadians really are. And the answer is people who spend days tweeting about Don Cherry being fired for being racist for 40 years or however long he's been on television for. And so, I think in this last year, as part of the sort of educational side of Blink-155, I think it's necessary for us to sort of, flip Canada over and let everyone sort of touch that underbelly. Kind of just give it an underbelly rub.
I think Sarah was saying the other day, just while we were talking about it, she's like, it's so crazy. What will happen? What are they going to do about Coach's Corner now? And I was thinking, it's just going to be called Coach's Wall. Because you need to have two to make a corner.
Oh, my God.
So
did you tweet that, or have you just been sitting with that in your
the pod is my drafts folder now. And I don't keep a drafts folder, and I don't tweet these things. I just say them on here now, and lots of people listen.
But isn't it, truly incredible to think that we live in a country where Coach's Corner is, the most important media institution that we have? I feel without hyperbole, especially with the firing of Don Cherry, I've just come to accept the fact that nothing matters more to this country than a segment between intermissions and a Saturday night hockey game called Coach's Corner, and that is our national identity.
But even like saying that out loud is so hokey too. Like now you've just said what would be in like a discount book at Indigo with maple syrup on the cover. Like that's what the whole book would be about.
But were you surprised how many people that you follow or like are friends with were like genuinely engaged in Don Cherry discourse that went beyond just like, fuck this old piece of shit? Like I felt like I didn't realize how many people I knew that had very real emotional investment in Hockey Night in Canada, in just like Don Cherry for good or for ill. Like it's bizarre. Like truly bizarre.
Speaking of, okay, I want to actually talk about another CanCon thing I'm going to get to my point about the album in a second, but you've just reminded me. It feels like it's been a long time since we recorded. I'm kind of surprised that we had nothing else to talk about other than our BMs, but that's neither here nor there. But another thing that happened on November 1st is this is so good. I don't know if you saw this. The Calgary Chamber of Commerce released this like small business anthem.
No, why would I have seen this? But
because it was like
I saw you share this. That's it. I saw this video in your Instagram and was like, I don't understand what's happening, and I clicked through.
Yeah, but I just want to play a little bit of it because it's so good. For some reason in Calgary, they love to like not actually have a backing track when they try to make music videos. Like there's this local rapper that I've written. He's one of the guys I wrote about that got me death threats.
Death threats, yeah.
He loves to release rap videos where he's just sort of trying to remember the backing track while he does it. Similarly, so this is called We Rise Up. It was paid for by the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. And comments have been turned off for this video. But I think it's
turned off.
I think this is that Lunch Money Lewis song about like getting paid or whatever. Oh, it's so good.
So right now we're in like a Taekwondo studio.
We're gonna pay.
And this guy's
gotta work every day.
Beardos with the YYC X logo on a sweater.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep this city on its feet.
Get some college kids with wine.
Getting things in on time. The work we do is great.
Bars.
Small biz doing big things. We punch above our weight. The economy's ups and downs can keep you up at night. Doing it with tenacity, we always fight the fight.
This is the most mortifying thing I've ever fucking seen. Why did they let these people record to a track?
Yeah, man.
Oh no! My Calgary! Maybe Menji's not so smart after all.
We got bills. We gotta pay. We gotta work every day.
Sorry, I become entranced with this video.
This is not fair to these people. Like, I genuinely feel bad for all of them. They have not been set up to succeed, and they look beyond foolish.
I've actually noticed this in Calgary before, but the company Dogma is in the same font as Gob, and like literally it says Gob at the front, like because dog backwards in this font is Gob. But I got to show you this lady who's there's a lady who also like brought too much to the table. It's the lady with the shoes later on.
I clean my shoes. It's time to go.
We gotta pay.
I've watched this video so many times. I'm fucking obsessed. Previously, I was obsessed with a video called The Rebuild Anthem, which was about like I think again small businesses banding together to fight back against the flood. Really, like, small businesses are the true troops, I think.
Well, yeah, unless you're, a friend of the pod, James Wild, who thinks that small businesses should all be nationalized and that...
well, he's correct. This video is a distinct argument for his cause,
yeah,
I think.
that's true, actually.
Anyways, I don't know why I needed to share that right now, because we started talking about Canada, but...
This is what Canada is. Canada is like these badly produced Chamber of Commerce videos and like a racist old hockey grandpa.
Yeah,
but I get that. Yeah, even that is reductive. I know what you're saying. Like everything sounds like a fucking tchotchke sentiment. But I think what I've been surprised by is like how much of what I sarcastically thought of as being our national identity truly still is tied up in in hockey and like what hockey represents and like the kind of hockey that people play. Like it's been genuinely astonishing to me how much that discourse has like dominated every feed because I think
it's funny when we talk about Canadian stuff because I feel like what we're doing with this podcast is so not Canadian for some reason. Mm-hmm. Like it's just like completely outside of Canadian discourse unless we force it in.
Yeah, well, I mean, which we do, like which we have for the last 15 minutes.
Because also when you need to vamp, you can just tell people how weird Canada is, and then it's great.
It is.
I don't know why we need to vamp right now because I'm trying to fucking get to my point, which is I was really sad to say goodbye to California Deluxe, and I'm completely fine with saying goodbye to California.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's because Wildfire was like actually kind of secretly a good song, and Sober is just fucking dog shit.
It's so bad. I think like maybe... I don't feel the same as you necessarily. I don't know. I have no idea how I feel. But when we talked about this last week, like California Deluxe ended up being this like really interesting world to fuck around in because like sometimes there was nothing to talk about, but like it was often like a very interesting exploration of these like fringes of the band. And I kind of think that because we knew that those were frequently low stakes episodes, they often like would go off the rails the most. Like I think, you know, the first time that you and I recorded, one of the only times we recorded an episode together was when we did the parking lot episode, which was like a few weeks into doing the pod, really, when you were here to cover TIFF. And we just agreed it was like entirely too awkward to be doing this when we could like see each other. Like it was just so embarrassing.
Well, I think the one where I was cry laughing, was also California Deluxe.
That's what I'm saying. I think like because we were like these ones don't really matter. So like if we're going to be in the same place and it's going to really go off the rails or like be weird in some way. And so I feel like where you like just were like shaking, crying about your Airbnb, was that like maybe 6ix9ine?
No, I think it was Last Train Home.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, man.
I guess it's also that's the same energy of California Deluxe is that it's kind of tossed off. And so it could go in any direction. Whereas like California is where they're actually trying their hardest.
Yeah,
and that's why it's so much
just
sadder.
Depressing. Yeah. And it's just mostly kind of been a slog. Sorry, while you're saying last Train Home, I think that was Home Season, and like there's been a few times recently where like "This is home" has like been like a phrase or a sentence that I've seen like at work or something like in copy, and I genuinely cannot see "This is home" without hearing the ice is home. Like it doesn't exist as like it will never be the same for me. Not that that's like a very popular phrase, but it's like it's come up recently.
We're not being very seeker sensitive with our big guest. So if you've made it this far, you've got to go back and listen to 122 episodes before you can listen to the guest. We've made it so you can't unlock the guest without listening to the 122 episodes.
It's amazing podcast technology. I was thinking that when we started the podcast, like just like talking about our like episodes we may have farted on. It's like this is like for sure a good episode for a lot of new people to come to.
But yeah, I remember hearing this song because I wrote about this for Exclaim when it came out, and before I interviewed the band, they didn't give me the whole album. They gave me like it was one of those like weird like early 2000s style promo emails where it was like an e-card with 4 songs in it or something. And so I already heard Bored to Death, and then I heard like She's Out of Her Mind, and I was like, okay, not great. And then Home Is Such a Lonely Place. I was like, oh, this is fine. But then I heard this one. I was like, what the fuck is this? And the problem is I really do want to like it. Like there's something about it that I really want to like where it has this sort of like half-speed kind of Third Eye Blind feel to it. Like the na-na-nas actually kind of are the best part of this song.
Truly.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's like one or two parts where like there's like really nice harmonies with Mark and Matt, and like literally for a second I was like, I don't know the names of the members of Blink-182. Like my brain just completely shut down. I was like, fucking, is there a Mike in the band?
More?
I had no idea who's in this band. This song is like truly representative of like what is shit about this album because it has.
Are you kind of getting Blink-182 fatigue at this point too? Because I'm starting to get it a little bit where I just like see their faces and I'm like, you pieces of shit. Get away from me.
Fucking assholes. Yes, maybe. Like, especially because, like, 9 did nothing for me. Like, there's nothing new in this in this world where I like believe in what they're doing and where they're going. And couple that with the fact that like every time there's Blink-182 news, like you get sent it like 100 different ways. What I will say this, what I do not have fatigue on and what genuinely gives me energy is like thinking that we might get Tom in the next year and like truly believing in what Tom is doing with like his life and with this like moment that he's been afforded. And I find that like kind of inspiring and energizing. But like I definitely feel like I have Blink-182 fatigue. You feel the same way?
Yeah, and I had my first Blink-182 dream last night.
Oh, wow. I haven't had one, which is weird, but it does seem crazy to me that it's taken us this fucking long.
Yeah, like it was, and I just remembered it halfway through the day today, and I was like, ugh. What is wrong with me? But I just had a dream that like Tom was back with the band, but it was like very tentative. Like they were just doing one show or something because of a contract or something. It wasn't even like a fun dream. You're dreaming about
deals and the pod. Like this is dangerous, man.
Exactly. But yeah. So anyway, sorry. I was just asking because you're forgetting their names, and I'm feeling this. I'm finding my brain is hard. It's hard for my brain to even want to connect with the band Blink-182 right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the issue. I think like this song to me like really represents like the worst of this album, and this album represents the worst of the band. Like it's calculated. It like you know. It's got these like little sort of pieces of authenticity that it seems like are sort of there to be signposts to like let you know like, hey, we're a real guy. Like talking about like, you know, West Side Humboldt 7 a.m. like jumps out at me, and also jumps out at me because I don't think I had listened to this song post Humboldt Broncos crash, which is like another very Canadian news item, but that like,
oh my God.
But that do you like when I heard Humboldt, I was like, is he talking about the fucking the hockey team?
So really, your Blink-182 fatigue has just sort of birthed room in your brain for more Canadian.
It turns out that, yeah, like, and so we're going to be like, the next bunch of episodes are just going to be every member of the Rheostatics' guests. All of the various, like, Harmer sisters.
Yeah, for the emo episode, we wanted to get one of the Kinsella brothers, but we could only get Warren, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's good. Let's not. Should we? Let's not.
No, let's not bother.
That's just for the heads.
Yeah, let's get into these fucking lyrics.
Yeah, let's do it.
Actually, before we do, let's talk about something that I think is especially symptomatic of like this being Blink at their worst. Is I feel like I read all of the explanations of the song, and I feel like none of them know what this song is about. Even like somewhere you'll see that. Okay, in NME. Oh, this is a video. I guess I can try to play the video, but it might not line up to the part. I'm not even trying anymore. Yeah, but in NME, yeah, I can find it. 1 second. It's in order of the album. This is just really a bad episode.
It's like exhilarating poking around with your notes that we're doing.
Just dicking around.
I did think it was interesting, according to the Genius annotation, that I guess like West Humboldt is west of Sacramento Boulevard. So despite referring to Chicago, there's still somehow Sacramento like embedded in the heart of this song, which I'm happy for the 2 to 3 listeners in Sacramento that we have to have that.
Keep reading that note about West Humboldt is like gets into like things about gangs for some reason.
Oh wow!
I don't know why.
The Latin kings and vice lords are located in that area. Do you think Matt Skiba's in a gang?
Probably.
It would be cool
with those
if
tattoos.
Yeah, Matt Skiba was in the Latin.
I feel
Kings.
like if any of them have like actual real gang ties, it would be Travis.
Right.
Because he's like actually, he's so much cooler and so much cornier than them. And I feel like that sort of like serious yet corny vibe is very gang-ish. In the same way that I'm going to talk about the FSU
of gangs from you over there in Montreal.
You think that like
gangs are corny, Josiah Hughes.
You think someone in a gang is going to be like really into irony or like really into Adventure Time, like Mark is in my mind? You know, I feel like, especially because I'm going to talk about the FSU gang in a second. And I feel like Travis gives off that energy where it's just like to be in the Friends Stand United gang, you got to be very like. I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot of comedians in that game. You know?
No, you're right. I don't think anyone in FSU has ever like done irony on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly on accident, but.
Okay, I found it. So here they are talking to enemy, mate.
Fuck hearing this song, man. I hate it.
It's so gross. The melody is... Ugh.
Sober is a song that we wrote with Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy. And
Fuck Patrick
the first
Stump.
verse of that song is autobiographical about Matt from his days as a bicycle messenger in Chicago.
Punk.
And the second verse of that song is a fantasy story. Doesn't exist, but it's kind of like a Sid and Nancy romance.
Sid and Nancy.
Two lost souls who only have one another, and they're kind of lost in the world. And Patrick was the one that had the line, I'm a dandelion, you're a four-leaf clover, which I think is a really clever lyric.
Okay, well, we'll talk about Patrick in a second, but so the song is about Skiba being a bike courier, and it's also a fictional Sid and Nancy style romance. Like, come on, really? But then here's what Feldy had to say to Fuse TV. Sober, we did it with Patrick Stump, who is a good friend of mine. Like, is that not, first of all, the most like Donald Trump prose you've ever seen?
Really? Like something
great band.
Like we did with my friend Patrick Stump. It's the way it's the phrasing afterwards of like saying something and then letting you know how sick it is. He writes the biggest hooks, the best hooks.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Great band, Fall Out Boy. And then he does say, Fall Out Boy supported Blink for many tours. They're all the oldest friends. I hang out with those guys a lot.
Okay, I get it, man. You've got a friend.
We get it. You're friends with Fall Out Boy. Easily, like, the least impressive thing ever.
I think, like, everyone you know is friends with someone in Fall Out Boy, right?
Exactly. And he was just kind of here, and he had this idea. What could Blink be on modern rock radio in 2016? What a depressing hypothetical that is.
I would also like to imagine that this conversation, I mean, I know that this album came out some year, but like imagine them having this conversation in 2018, be like, oh, what would this be like if it sounded like a bad modern rock song from 2.5 years ago? That would be sick.
Right. But even in 2016, my idea of what modern rock radio is just like a styrofoam cup with a string playing Stone Temple Pilots. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't exist really. What does that look like? What does that mean when there aren't really live instruments on the radio? So we came up with this drum and bass feel in the verses, all Travis. And then here's what Feldy says the song is about, despite Mark saying it's a fictional Sid and Nancy thing. Feldy says, Mark wrote the lyrics about falling in love with his wife, being on the road, the dichotomy of having to perform and being wasted. That's some of the most inopportune times. The idea of having a career based on the idea of fucking up. What it's like being in a band.
What? Yeah, get your fucking story straight.
Is he like having a meltdown? I feel like his brain is melting while he speaks.
So we're friends. So as you know, they're friends, and I am also friends.
And touring in a band,
and we were like, "What would the band sound like in this year?" This is very curious as a description.
Also, the most frustrating thing is I actually think that is interesting, the one line, the idea of having a career based on the idea of fucking up. That actually is like a very interesting seed of an idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like that's sort of is the great irony or difficulty of being a mainstream successful punk musician and still having to go through this purgatory of making music for the rest of your life. But none of them are smart enough to do anything with that actual gem buried in this shit pile of a quote. So instead, we just get like, is it about his wife? Has Mark ever even been drunk before? I don't know. Like,
yeah, definitely not. It's so, you're right though, because there's something like it is on some level like well-worn kind of like rock doc territory, but this idea that people, you know, like Blink, like who are not like full on a party band, but especially like now as a nostalgia band, like I guess definitely are. And so everywhere you go, like you're supposed to be the party, and you hear musicians who have struggled with like substance abuse talk about this all the time. Like you're at work and it's Tuesday, but for everyone in that town, it's like, this is the thing that they've been saving up money for, and this is their big, like, you know, moment of kind of release, and they're expecting something from you, and, you know, and that can be either like something that's very dark emotionally and can be, you know, difficult to sort of access night after night, or it's just like being the party, right? Like being the kind of drunk clown. And that's obviously way more prevalent in sort of punk probably than a lot of other genres. And so, yeah, that could have been something super fascinating to hear a band that's sort of in that moment explore, like kind of in real time and like interrogate their own, like, I don't know, like performance of like fun. And that's absolutely not what the song is.
No. So let's get into the lyrics. And again, I want to talk about Fall Out Boy last. But
okay.
So it opens with, like, this melody also is one that immediately gets stuck in your head, but in the worst possible
it's
way.
Bad.
And it never grows on you, and it never becomes something that you don't even get like Stockholm Syndrome with it. Do not joke about starting the episode right now. I'm done with that.
Two lovers fumbling in the dark. I also think, like, we've talked about this before, that the band has this tendency, but it was always Tom, right? These, like, nursery rhyme melodies that sound super basic but sort of work in context. And this is that to me, where it's like a nursery rhyme, but it's like a really bad, like, new nursery rhyme that like, big nursery rhyme is trying to insert into the canon.
What's your favorite nursery rhyme?
Oh, man. I guess it would be Three Blind Mice, because I think it's, like, kind of grotesque. What about you?
Yeah, it's really backwards language on that, you know?
It's true. Yeah. I wonder if is that like not okay anymore? I guess it's not.
I can't remember like what's any of the nursery rhymes. Oh, Twinkle Little Star, that's a banger.
Remember when you unlocked that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was like also basically every other nursery rhyme?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, knowing that it's ABC as well, that's fucked up. I'm going to go with Baby Shark because I am a modern person, and I think that Baby Shark is a great song.
So contemporary.
Baby Shark, like, gets lodged in your head in a good way. Like, everyone pretends that they hate it because they're fucking basic.
I don't know that
Baby
I've
Shark
ever heard
is sick.
It. Like, people
really?
will talk about it. Someone dressed as it for Halloween at my work. But like,
should I play it? It's going to get our episode blocked, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's not do it. I think it's like one of those things, like smoking cigs. Like, I'm just good to like have sort of virgin brain on this.
You'll wait until someone has cut Baby Shark with weed.
Yeah, just like, okay, it's the only one I'm going to get high tonight.
Baby Shark is sick. You know what else everyone like fronts like is bad? Is that Paul McCartney Christmas song. But it's fucking so good.
That song fucking rocks.
Like, people are so embarrassingly basic. But Sober is an example of a bad melody that gets lodged in your head.
Yeah, but listen to us on this one, though. This is all of those things but shitty.
I know I messed up and it might be over. It like reads like a Irish proverb that someone who's like a pageman would say, who's not Irish but just adopts an Irish accent when they've had a pint or two.
Yeah, totally.
It's like this is like very Cheers, email Cheers kind of prose. I know it messed up. I know I messed up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion. You're a 4-leaf clover. But let me call you when I'm sober. It's so bad. I just gave myself the worst embarrassment chills. I didn't know you could do that.
That's cool, man.
But I did.
You're finding a new way of getting yourself off over there.
Exactly. It was like I was using my left hand, basically.
It's the stranger's embarrassment.
So it starts with this fucking embarrassing, like it's written on a pageman's tea towel sort of poem. Right. And then Matt Skiba like immediately comes in. He's like, I'm a punker. I woke up in the pouring rain, West Side Humboldt, 7 a.m.
R.I.P.
Sleeping by a dumpster to keep me dry with the radio on and a new black eye. Damn. First of all, how does he have the radio on? What does he have? A portable FM radio?
He's got a boombox. A lot of D batteries going on in there. It's like a combination of he's like a bike messenger and also Radio Raheem.
Maybe that's why he fell. He was trying to balance the boombox on his bike.
Right, yeah. Like, you got to think about that, man. It's just not practical.
So he has a new black eye because I bet you couldn't knock me out. And I guess you really got me now. Black sedan, ran a red light, just a drunken bike messenger on a Tuesday night. So did he get hit by a car or did he...
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of sounds like there's a little bit of blame to go around here. You know, he's drunk... The car runs a red light. Like, who's to say who's to blame here, you know?
Yeah, but he's saying that he bet someone they couldn't knock him out. So he has he got the black eye so he didn't get knocked out by the black eye. He won that bet, but then a black sedan supposedly ran a red light, but I think he's lying. I don't think it did.
Yeah, I feel like he's sort of, there's a lot of blame people blame car culture for all kinds of stuff. I think cars rock, actually. This is a pro car.
I'm gonna have to get James Wilt on the pod again to talk some sense into you.
No, this is one that I will not back down on so easily as the like Netflix's propaganda conversation.
There's another one. There's another beast that I want to poke so badly right now, but I'm not going to. I'll do it in the DMs later. I feel like this does sort of add up to like a drunken bike messenger kind of thing. Is that somehow this is someone's fault? Like, I feel like the black sedan did not run the red light. I feel like it's this drunk ass bike messenger oogle trying to say some shit to cover their ass. I want to just say, like, as a friend. Jokes aside about cars, but as a friend to all bike messengers, in particular in the city of Montreal, I side with the bike messenger on this. Cars are I just
heinous death machines driven mostly by evil suits.
I've just made things incredibly awkward for myself.
Yeah, you're like, when you go out for coffee like Saturday morning, you're going to get iced the fuck out. Like, don't you only hang out with bike messengers now, dude? Like, know which side your bread is buttered on.
No, but I'm saying
no one listens to this in a car.
All of my new bike messenger friends, cut the shit with me. I don't want to hear the stories about how it was someone else's fault. Let's be on the level and let's be sincere and let's be humble about our experiences in life.
You're going to bring a new era of transparency to Montreal bike messenger culture.
I'm not saying that I'm mad at you for getting hit by a car because you were drunk on your bike. I'm saying let's take some agency for our behavior. All of us.
That's inspiring,
bike messenger
man.
or not.
Yeah, that's I think that's a really important message for this pod to spread.
I think Mark's verse is a lot sadder.
I like so. I'll be honest. The lyrics are like very kind of obviously.
I'm just gonna open a beer. I'm breaking edge now.
Wow, dude! This episode, that's crazy.
Turn into a beer wolf.
You just turned into a horny wolf. I like the melody in this verse. This is part of the sort of what makes me so mad about the song is that there are elements that are like, I think that like definitely when we listen to the covers of it, I'm going to be like, fuck, yes, it rocks. Because like, I like it. I think it's like a groovy little melody.
I hate how the guitar in between the singing, like something about it is the most Christian sounding modern Blink-182 song to me. I don't even know what Christian band it sounds like. It just sounds like a youth convention.
Oh man, it's been great watching Righteous Gemstones, where they occasionally have like the really kind of like U2-y worship music happening in the background to like feel like I understand what you've been talking about for the last 3 years. Like
they even have the drum.
They got the drum wall, and I know that it's authentic because of this podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, see, that's what I was working towards.
But I like even like this was like, and I guess you really got me now. It's like I like it. I think it's like a cool melody. I think it's like a very cool Max Eba melody.
Is there actually gang vocals at that part?
I think Guess You has like it's been punched out.
There's some serious FSU energy in this song.
Yeah, totally. Like we should have gotten like I'm happy with our guest this week, but maybe we should have gotten someone from FSU. To
Elgin James.
Is that the FSU guy? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's like the founder of the FSU, and then he made after he sort of I think he even went to jail, and then after that he made like a Sundance indie. I think it's a Manic Pixie Dream Girl movie, and then now he works on that show Mayans Motorcycle Club.
Amazing.
So he's really pivoted.
Now, do you know that
it's like the great hardcore? It's the great hardcore man pivot from being like someone wearing a Bane hoodie and smashing someone's head in, pivoting over to being like I've been a biker since I was born.
Right? Yeah, that happened.
He's done that with his career.
Now, do you know that just like because like when you got blood in or whatever to FSU, like they sort of teach you the history.
Yeah, they pull up Elgin James wiki.
Yeah, you just like look at it on someone's phone in the parking lot while waiting for it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm giggling the whole time, and everyone's like, "No, this is serious."
Dude, this is very.
He really did make a Sundance indie rom-com.
Amazing. That's awesome.
No, I'm going to talk about him more in a second. I don't know why. I just want to, but it's more related to Fall Out Boy. But anyways, there's gang vocals here. What do you think of the hand claps? I mean, that is just fucking.
I like the hand claps.
Horrifying.
Again, to me, there's like elements here where it feels like Feldy. Okay, look, we talked about Fall Out Boy a lot, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about them today. Not a huge fan, but like I've always sort of like really respected that like Patrick Stump doesn't feel like he was ever trying to disguise where he was coming from, and that was this like very big, bold kind of like pop sensibility that he just like had, and I think there's like parts of this song, like to me the clapping is like sick. It's like them knowing what they're.
So we know what you're talking about.
No, because it's in my head. I'm like that was involuntary. I feel like I did it when I was listening to it. I was like sitting at my desk, like just like being like, yeah.
I didn't know I didn't know what clapping. Now that you're doing it, I know what you mean by clapping. Right, and I do like that part. I was thinking of something different.
No. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm glad we discussed that. But to me, this is like false because there's such like obviously like phony Casio hand claps. Like that's a part of the song that to me, even though it's the bad melody, but it's not being played as
Casio hand claps was my MySpace dance punk project.
Sick. That's a good one. You should have done that. To me, this feels like Chainsmokersy. Like this sits in a realm of like, okay, they're taking what they do and they're putting it so squarely in a modern context, and it's the melody's not as bad here. What sucks off the beginning is the big like brash fucking drum part. Now I've said brash twice in the last like 2 minutes, which like I'm on fucking timeout now.
That's the main issue with this episode so far, I think.
Yeah, otherwise it's been seamless. Like I don't hate it in this context. Like it sort of tricks me into
maybe I wouldn't mind it if it was for a different song, because now that you're saying Chainsmokers, I'm really getting excited over here.
Getting your
once
blood
you bring
pumping.
up the chains, you know I'm down. But I don't know. I think maybe it's just because I just feel like you can't say the word clover and not have me think about like St. Patty's Day merch, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, but anyways, let's read the lyrics of verse 2. I think the hand claps happen somewhere here, but Mark Hoppus, so Matt Skiba's whole thing was like, I'm a punk, I'm a punker, I know what punk is, and I'm all about that punk life. And then Mark says, she undressed and we stumbled downstairs, fell onto the table as the neighbors just stared. This is like Cheshire Cat level songwriting. Like this seems like something that Tom wrote where it ends with like someone putting a thumb in their butt or something.
Yeah, totally. I wish that was what was happening.
We laughed out loud and smashed their lights, digging with our hands in the dirt outside. And she dragged me to the edge of town and she slapped me, then she pulled me down. I can do bad and you can do better. Spending all night, getting lost together. Oh, I can do bad and you can do better makes me so angry because it's one of those lines that's like a stupid, nonsensical line that you know they thought was like smart when they wrote it.
I'll be honest. I like it.
That line or the verse?
No, the whole verse is bad. But I can do bad and you can do better falls on the line of like, I actually think it's kind of clever. I like it. I'm a defender of. You're putting me in a position where I feel like I keep saying that I like things about the song, which I'm not happy about.
It's a game of chess. I'm trying to embarrass you in front of your friend.
Fuck.
That's what it is. We've reached the level of our friendship where now one of your old friends comes back into play, and I have to sort of nag you.
Assert dominance.
Yeah, I'm just being incredibly emotionally abusive to you. And I like it that way.
I think it's like an interesting new part of our unfolding dynamic. I really like it.
So I don't remember the bridge, but it just says that it just says sober twice.
Because I think it's like it's mostly piano, right? Isn't it the like do 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 do, and then it's just sober. Like they just keep saying that, right? Who fucking cares?
Like it feels like that shitty melody just repeats over and over and over again.
When I'm sober, ba-do-do-do.
4-leaf. Okay, so here's the Patrick Stump thing. He gets a writing credit on this song specifically because he said the line, I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf clover, which is like, I think maybe the most embarrassing part of the song. And not just because of like the contrast of a dandelion and a 4-leaf clover is really stupid, but also because Mark Hoppus' voice is already like on the line, like when he says nuclear in Wendy Clear or whatever song.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah. He has some issues with saying sounds where it just sounds weird to begin with. And then I don't think anyone could say 4-leaf clover and have it sound good in a song. But Mark Hoppus saying it is especially just like so fucking disgusting to me.
It's not a good mouth sound. I just wonder if
it's got a bad mouth feel.
Yeah,
for sure.
Patrick Stump was just so drunk off the success of "This Ain't a Scene, It's a Goddamn Arms Race." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to juxtapose some shit now. Just watch me." And where like that was like a dumb turn of phrase that sort of worked for him. This is not that.
No, exactly. Okay, now wait a minute. I just searched. Okay, what is this? This has come out since. Okay, never mind. Someone named Christian Hudson has a song called 4-Leaf Clover where the chorus is, "I'm not drunk, but I'm not sober. My head's spinning for this 4-leaf clover." What the fuck?
I mean, that's just someone. Now you're just mad about someone else's bad song.
No, but I was going to say, I was excited that it would be from previously, because the whole reason I want to talk about the FSU is that I'm kind of surprised they didn't beat up Fall Out Boy, but I guess it's because Pete Wentz was in FSU at one point, and so they must have had his back.
And the drummer's like a true punk.
He's like a corpsman, but I feel like this is like one of those urban legends that's been talked about forever. And someone I tried to get on the pod to speak about this, but couldn't. Completely understandable. That's fine. Is Wes Eishold from American Nightmare and Give Up the Ghost. And this is like straight up definitely confirmed a million times. But Fall Out Boy's two biggest albums, like what's it called? Like the Cork Man or whatever? Corky and the Tree.
Corky and the Tree Pigs, yeah.
Yeah. That Cork one and then Infinity on High, both of them like straight up stole lyrics from American Nightmare / Give Up the Ghost. Like some of their sickest lyrics, which Wes Eishold, say what you will about Amazing Core. And if you say the wrong thing, I will beat you up. FSU style.
Yeah, be careful.
But he's a really good lyricist, and he's like a poet and stuff. And so they literally stole his lyrics. It's proven everywhere. And then he just was like, "Yo, what the fuck? Why'd you do this?" And then they just like literally, he became a millionaire overnight because they just like sent him a bunch of money to settle out of court.
That's
and now
so
he has
sick.
he has a credit on Fall Out Boy albums as being like inspiring their music or whatever. So like, it's just funny to me to imagine Patrick Stump getting a songwriting credit for like a lyric,
just to sing a lyric. Well, have we
when
talked
they've
about this before?
stolen their lyrics from American Nightmare,
right? It's because that became like a real, because of lawsuits like that, or I don't know if he sued them, but like similar things where it was like similar melodies or whatever, where artists just started putting in kind of vanity credits just to cover them in a lawsuit, like that Taylor Swift song "What You Made Me Do" credits the writers of "I'm Too Sexy," even though it's like not really a sample, but just to like ensure that she wouldn't get sued. Or like when the Rolling Stones added Katie Lang as a songwriter on Anybody Seen My Baby, it was like literally because Mick Jagger, Keith Richards' daughter, was like, "You realize you just stole this from Katie Lang, right?" And so it's like interesting to think that could happen to someone who's like not quite at a Katie Lang or Right Said Fred level. Like, what if like you should start like trying to like incept prenup lyrics, and I certainly would do the same, Junior Belts, to like our more successful musical friends, right? Like, and just hope that it shows up, and then you can be like, hell yeah, like, you know, the thing about people being mad at you online, that's for me, dog.
Our more successful music friends who are probably making like a good $20K a year or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we're not really tapped into the upper echelons.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just think it's like probably the funniest thing ever. Maybe it's not funny anymore now that like emo versus hardcore isn't a thing, and I'm just fucking old as hell. But to me, it's very funny that American Nightmare wrote the Fall Out Boy albums, and then it kind of makes sense because it's like, yeah, so this is what Patrick, this is what Patrick Stump comes up with. I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf clover, and I just picture him wearing, like, he wears fedoras, right? He has very strong fedora energy at least.
He just had like a variety of hat energies.
Yeah,
to the
like
point where I just
like,
assumed that he was bald, but he's not.
He does seem bald.
He seems bald.
Seems like, you know, when you're like, I don't know, trying to kill a Sunday, just walking around, and then there's a hat store, and you're like, this is fun, let's go to the hat store. But none of the hats are like a normal kind of hat. He seems like the kind of person who would shop at the actual hat store.
Right, yeah, not at like a Lids or a New Era flagship store. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He just seems like he's into non-traditional hats. He's a man of many hats. Among them is not writing good original lyrics, apparently.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a hat that he wears. But was he? Is this the only Blink song that he's ever contributed on, or I feel like there are others? Because we've talked about Fall Out Boy so fucking much, but is that just because they inhabit such similar worlds?
I feel like he was credited on another California one, maybe.
We'll never know because we're never going to talk about this album ever again.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. Actually, I'm ready.
Yeah, except we have so many songs from 9 to talk about.
Yeah, there's so many, and then they're going to release more, and then they're going to release their collaboration with Triple X Tentacion. That is actually happening. He has like writing credit on San Diego as well, which I don't understand at all.
The song rocks.
What did Patrick Stump add to that? There's no.
He was like, weird... what if we said San Diego? Like he contributed what feels like the authentic heart of the song.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, I don't know why I wanted to talk about FSU other than Pete Wentz used to be in it, and also they always blame Pete Wentz for stealing the lyrics from American Nightmare. So that's weird too. Like, does Pete Wentz write the lyrics for Fall Out Boy?
Yeah,
because Patrick Stumps are this
like,
bad.
He's like the Vinny from Less Than Jake of Fall Out Boy.
That's so strange, man. Imagine liking Fall Out Boy. What a weird world.
what an inexplicable hobby for someone to have is fandom for a different pop punk band than this one. Indefensible.
But is Fall Out Boy a pop punk band? Like, have they ever? I know that there was that one. What was the first song that like had some octave chords and sounded kind of like a pop punk
Sugar
song?
We're
But
Going
ever
Down?
since then, I feel like
that song.
Yeah, they
rocks.
always have every Fall Out Boy since then always has like a marching band. And then like Akon shows up all the time. Like there's just always like so much going on. I feel like every Fall Out Boy song is a different Pepsi halftime show.
But the Pepsi halftime show rocks. So I think that's a compliment.
I can't believe you just said that.
Sorry, man. You got to respect brands.
Yeah, and let me guess, you think they should stand for the anthem?
Of course I do. I'm with Don Cherry, by the way, in all this. I just want to make that clear from earlier.
I've never seen Sid and Nancy. I've been meaning to watch it forever. But do you think Mark Hoppus and Sky Hoppus give you Sid and Nancy energy?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's that like kind of dangerous, attraction. That
I guess like maybe an inability to play the bass could maybe factor in.
Totally the same thing. But has FSU ever intersected with Blink at all? Like, is the overlap strictly Fall Out Boy?
That's a good question. I'm sure it's just Fall Out Boy because, maybe Matt Skiba could be.
Yeah, you never
somewhere
know.
In there.
Like, Skiba's a punk man. So when you became straight edge, did you think about joining a gang at all?
Yeah, I did actually. I thought about. Okay, what's this? Is this? This can't be. You know how sometimes when you Google something, then it teases like two articles at once from the same site?
Oh, yeah, but it's like doesn't contain the one word you're really looking for?
Oh, hang on. Yeah, actually there is something. Another FSU member, Jim. This is from the famous Rolling Stone FSU article from 2007. Mm-hmm. This is like a great read. If anyone wants to read it, I do highly recommend this.
Can you send it to me in the chat? I'm actually going to read it later.
Fine work of pagemanry. I think this is about. Okay, yeah, here we go. Another FSU member, Jimmy Shrugs, shows up. He's a black 24-year-old who grew up in Compton in such a crip-hating neighborhood that local bloods avoided all C words. It was like, let me get a biggerette, Shrugs says. Well, that's very pop cultural now. But anyways, Shrugs is wearing baggy black shorts and an oversized T-shirt with an F logo that looks like a pistol. His hair is pulled back into a bun, and he speaks in a soft drawl. Shrugs' dad eventually moved the family to Corona, where Shrugs befriended BMX and hardcore kids, including Travis Barker of Blink-182. Now he works for Barker's clothing company, Famous Stars and Straps, the maker of his T-shirt, and hopes to break into hip-hop production. See, I could just tell that Travis was down with FSU.
Damn.
He just has that sort of like vacant lack of humor that I love sincerely. Right,
and that are, I guess, like a necessary component of straight edge gang life.
Exactly. Like imagine Travis Barker like trying to watch John Oliver or something. Like it would just like his face would just like gloss over. Nothing would happen. Not that you could either watch John Oliver and get annoyed by how lib it is, or you could just enjoy it for what it is. But I feel like Travis Barker would just kind of like almost look through the screen trying to watch it.
I just cannot.
I think I'm just trying to get killed right now.
I think so, man.
Doing.
Like you got to be careful. We talk a lot about where you live.
I wonder if FSU is in Montreal. Maybe I will. Maybe they could use a rebrand. Maybe I could run their Twitter and do like clapbacks.
You definitely should bring FSU into the future. I don't know, man. I'm not seeing anything about FSU in Montreal. They only have, FSU has 211 likes on Facebook.
Yeah, it's been a tough go for them.
This is awful. Yeah, the only reference to Montreal and FSU shows up in an article that seemingly also is about the founding of Vice in Montreal.
I saw that, and that is why I moved here, to get some of that energy going on.
Such a huge Vice fan. Damn it.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you asked me that, and now we know. Famous Stars with Straps is officially FSU related. That's important.
That is, that's an important bit of pod trivia now, and then Blink trivia.
So that's why they're tight with Fall Out Boy, because it's all FSU stuff,
right.
FSU pop punk.
Yeah, and that's why no one beat them up or they never got fucked with for the American Nightmare stuff, is because they were protected by a for real gang.
Exactly. I've also been thinking about that a lot lately. Like, remember when FSU was classified as a gang, and then everyone was always talking about these A&E documentaries about it. But I wonder if it's actually like fairly similar to Juggalos being classified as a gang. Like, are FSU's just the Juggalos of the early 2000s?
I don't know. I mean, like, there was none of that shit happening in Toronto at the shows I was going to anyway, and I don't really think there was in general.
Like, mostly musical theater and whatnot.
Yeah. Of course. The shows I'm referring to are, of course, Annie, Miss Saigon, Les Miserables.
You'd be surprised at the strong FSU presence in the musical theater community.
Oh yeah, no, it's intense because like those substances will really fuck up your ability to sing and dance. So like people are hardline. I mean, I think like just if you look at like people went to jail, right? Like this was like a gang that really did crimes, whereas like the Juggalos literally are just like poor people.
I think someone from FSU like killed someone for wearing a Confederate flag T-shirt in a bar. And, like, I don't want to editorialize, but...
That's sick.
That's... Yeah, let's be honest. Anyways, someone on... This is... I just... Oh, my God, the username is so good. I wrote this down because I wanted to make everyone angry.
Not just yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So someone has written, what are your top Blink-182 songs on Reddit? And the words your and top, there's no space. And then there's a space before the two question marks, which... they do edit the post to say that they fucked up the title. So thanks for informing us that. But the main fucked up thing, there's two fucked up things here. First of all, this person's username, don't think is a joke.
I hope.
Their username is IPA Fanatic. Very good. And so you might think, wow, Josiah's obviously a very pro-sobriety person at this point. And I am. But... that's why he's against IPA Fanatic and wants to make fun of him. And I just want to say to you, as a sort of a PSA for not drinking, these are IPA Fanatic's top 10 Blink songs, okay? Number one, okay, fair, Always. I'm just going to read them all. Always, The Rock Show, Feeling This, Damn It, Adam Song, Natives, Roller Coaster, Shut Up, The Party Song, and Sober. Imagine Sober, like, cracking the top 10.
Being in your top 10.
Our top 5 has, like, 155 songs in it.
And not one of them is Sober.
No. I think Sober is probably one of my least favorite Blink songs.
This is a bottom 5. Absolutely a bottom 5.
I think I might, as I sort of work through it, I think I like Los Angeles better than Sober.
Oh, Los Angeles rocks. Los Angeles top 5.
Think it rocks. I mean, are you also kind of feeling nostalgia for California?
No, not really. No, I liked Los Angeles at the time.
With this song, I'm not feeling it, but I'm saying like in general, like if you hear like Kings of the Weekend or Left Alone or like some of those songs, I don't know. I mean, I've always loved Rabbit Hole, but it is kind of like. The one thing that's satisfying about this is that I think we've said this before, but like overanalyzing and trying really hard to engage with something that probably they didn't even think about it that much, is very rewarding in some very fucked up way.
Yeah, and I think it's also like the last time that I felt truly like tied to a moment with this band. Like, I didn't like California, but I listened to it a lot. You know, and I've said this before, but it was like I remember like walking to work and like listening to this record for the first time. Like, I know where I was. I like have a general sense of the weather. Like this record, because it was such a big fucking deal, and I was so curious about Skiba, and like, you know, it made an impact on me that was like, you know, in the end mostly kind of like something that I shrugged off, but like it felt like a moment that kind of like mattered in my fandom with this band, and just like the history of this band, and like the way I interacted with other people about the band. Like, you know, you and I have like gone back and like resurfaced just like old tweets between the two of us about this record. Like, this was like a big cultural moment, just like even just going back and forth with people like that I like to banter with on fucking Twitter. And 9 was just like nothing. It was just fucking wispy nothing. And so I get being nostalgic for this, because to me it was like the last period of like of this band managing to do something that like felt like it had like a really significant like that I could pinpoint it as a moment in my life. Like, I won't remember listening to 9, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of true. Although the other funny thing is that this was such a naive time, because like it felt so important to be listening to Blink-182 with Matt Skiba, and even they're constantly writing these songs that are like, okay, this is going to be our modern rock radio hit, and it fails every single time. Mm-hmm. And this was definitely like they were trying to make it a single, and then they clearly gave up on it. So that was like this weird time where we're like, oh yeah, Blink-182, this is such a huge deal. And like no one cared at all outside of our little circle. And then all of a sudden Blink-182 becomes like this nostalgia act that everyone is name dropping constantly, which they are right now. And so weirdly, 9 has more cultural relevance too than this.
Yeah, that's true.
But this felt bigger. So I don't know. It's very confusing, but yeah, I don't know. I bet you in like 20 years when we reunite the pod on a rooftop somewhere looking over a city, like that classic Beatles thing, we'll probably feel fondly about California.
Wait, what classic maybe? Beatles? Are you talking about the last time the Beatles played together?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. I was know. Like, the Beatles reunion? Like, dude, I've got some bad news for you about the Beatles.
No, it's because it's one of those things that I only know as a Simpsons thing. And so I was thinking of
right.
the B sharps. Anyways, you were taking so long earlier because of your that you're having.
Well, I mean, that was just for the chat, man. Now you're bringing the Patreon tiers into the pod, and the consistency of my stool was like not part of.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were just saying that you referenced the consistency of it, but you didn't say what it was.
Maybe it was a. You know.
Well, I can beep it out if you want.
If you could write down this time code, and then if you could bleep out all the descriptions of my turds, thank you.
Okay, I will. Yeah, but you are admitting that you do make turds.
that much I'm willing to. I'm willing to say.
Embarrassing.
Look, we're all about sort of transparency and sort of bearing ourselves emotionally on this pod, and so I just want to say, you know, I've turded, and you're not alone. My DMs are open if you want to talk about your turds. Please don't. I actually don't.
I hate the word poop, as I've said before. I think it's really embarrassing. But to say turd as a verb is really good, actually. And then I'm imagining if the book Everybody Poops had been called Everybody Turds, and then it could be like that REM song.
Oh, yeah, that would have been much better.
That's so good. Anyways, while you were turding earlier, I decided to search the song on Twitter, which I don't usually do. And look how cool this tweet is. It's from Ladang Tandis.
Cool tweet.
And it says, I know I messed up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. Blink-182 sober. And I believe this is Ladang Tangus in the photo, just like having a cig and looking at his phone in front of his computer. Not a care in the world. Like such a strange caption to go with this photo, and like who took the photo also.
It just it looks like there's a live video up on the laptop, and he's got like the two big old school stereo speakers behind it, and then I feel like there's a frosty mug of beer that his knee is obscuring. So like,
oh wow,
just having a great day.
He's almost planning to mess up. It's like he knows he's about to mess up, so he's putting it on. But then another thing I found on Twitter, which is really funny, is this. this Wednesday Wisdom account. It's like one of these fucking content farm accounts that has 1 million followers. Well, I guess 65,000 followers, but they do 3 tweets every wisdom to give you some wisdom. And so in April of this year, they wrote, the first tweet is, "Good morning. Lots of good stories start with hold my beer. Little liquid courage can make the difference between saying hi to the girl across the bar, doing that double dare, or spending a night in jail and forever changing your life." And this already makes me want to actually start drinking again because it's really just terrible. Look, I am all about a good time and cutting loose, typo, but you have to CYA, Google it. My Instagram is full of people doing dumb stuff. Seems like it is cool right now. Problem is, all those people now have themselves acting a fool on the internet. Not a good look.
CYA is cover your ass, by the way.
Oh, wow. I thought it was like control your alcohol or something.
Yeah.
Either way.
Same, yeah.
Today, as you are planning your weekend and your summer, make sure you are making memories and not regrets. Everything in moderation. Today's song, Sober, Blink-182.
Not drinking.
Why would anyone
cool.
willingly follow some embarrassing scolding advice don't forget to wear sunscreen as account? Why do people want to follow shit like that? I don't understand why people use Twitter for anything other than giggling or roasting someone.
Yeah, there's 69,000 followers of this account. This is so...
That just want every Wednesday to hear someone be like, well, make sure that you put a little bit aside because the tax season will always be coming around the corner. And today's song is...
Taxman
Baslerman
by the Beatles.
Yeah. Exactly, from the rooftop reunion.
So I just like the idea of Instagram is full of people doing dumb stuff. Seems like it is cool right now. Damn...
Yeah, was that written by a bot?
Dumb stuff is cool. I mean, dumb stuff has always been cool.
To be fair, dumb stuff is definitely having a bit of a moment as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that. But just some people's Twitter experience must just be hell on earth. You follow Art Decider and you love that shit? And you think it's so funny when they say that Wendy's post is art or not? That's your experience in life? That's fucking terrible.
That's so sick.
Good Lord.
I'm going to follow this account. I'm going to become a better person.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of the main thing about the lyrics is that, and maybe it's just too hard to do, but I feel like it could actually be really interesting to have them write a song about sobriety. If you're almost 50 and you've been through some shit, and definitely all 3 of these people have had friends lost to alcoholism or addiction, whether actually dead or not. There's an opportunity to actually write an interesting song about sobriety instead of just being I kissed her on the pool table and then I messed up and I'm sorry, I'll call you tomorrow when I'm sober. It's it's so fucking terrible.
Yeah, well, again, to bring it back to the story we were talking about earlier, is I think there's really unique territory to be mined here because the life of a touring band is so utterly unique as a job goes. I recently read that big Vulture interview with Dave Matthews, which I think is maybe a year old at this point, but someone that I trust shared it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll tuck into this. No,
I didn't.
And he talks a lot about he's not sober, but he talks a lot about his drinking. And it's a really interesting way of to as a person in your 50s, how much you drink and what is alcoholism, because I can go, I don't need to drink. I don't feel a compulsion to drink. And if I don't drink for a couple of weeks, I don't notice it, but I also then get drunk every fucking night. And from a, physical perspective, you're putting the same, tax on your body, but what does that all mean? And so he's unpacking all this shit in a really thoughtful, was Dave fucking Matthews, really interesting, well considered interview, and there's a world to be explored there. This just completely is not it.
Yeah, and maybe it just, I guess it's too serious of a topic, but then I just think,
but then just make a dumb song. It's y'all ever get fucked up, and you're hell yeah, that's also sick, that's fun. But this is trying to be really serious. I fucking slept by a dumpster. Oh shit.
Yeah, maybe just the word sober is too loaded. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it was called wasted or something.
Yeah, you wouldn't think twice about it. That's true.
Yeah, I think the word sober is too loaded. And in general, like, just singing about being drunk is fucking corny. I don't know. Everything about this seems like Fiddler, and I think they're maybe sober now too, but I don't know. Like, imagine listening to Fiddler. It's just fucking upsetting.
Nardwar gave Fiddler a copy of my book, so I will always respect Fiddler. Because somewhere in the van, they once had a copy of Perfect Youth.
Wow.
I know, right? Is that a cool story? I have to say it. I have to say, every time someone talks about Fiddler, I'm like, it just comes out. I'm sorry. It was a very cool moment for me.
Okay, well, I guess there's a lot of things we wish were different about this song. A lot of things that we wish could have been changed. A lot of things that are not up to standard, but there's still one question on everyone's mind about this song.
Oh,
what if Tom DeLonge wrote it?
I was like, what's it going to do? I was like, wait, I know this.
Well, it could have been what if it has a guitar solo, but it's instead what if Tom DeLonge wrote it. So this is by Little Red Guitars, or is it, let's see which account. Oh, Little Red Guitars 69. So this guy's constantly deleting and starting new accounts. I think because of cyberbullies.
Is that what it is? Dickheads.
Probably. Well, the comments are turned off, so I mean, this could have. Now he knows. Now we know what it's like to be the Calgary Chamber.
I was going to say really. Him in Calgary.
Yeah. So I mean, come on, guys, don't bully this guy. Just make fun of him on your podcast instead. That's what you got to do.
Build up an audience and then roast him there.
Yeah, but with love. I mean, come on.
I love Little Ray Guitars.
I love him. I would take a bullet for him.
Absolutely.
No.
Just like if Tom wrote it.
Whenever people do guitar videos, there's just so much like awkward in between time where they're just kind of like self-awarely nodding.
Yeah, just like chilling.
And that's kind of my favorite. I want to make like a supercut of just like people in their bedroom awkwardly nodding, holding a guitar, kind of looking around. So self-aware and so self-unaware at the same time. It's kind of beautiful in a way.
Yeah, I feel like it's a world in which you wish you could exist.
I think I need to apply for an arts grant to make this. I'm picturing like a sort of a tunnel with like screens everywhere that's just like awkward guitar cover people breathing and nodding gently.
Yeah, well, what's like, you should do this for like Montreal Nuit Blanche.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, that was one of his better videos, though. Like, it kind of did sound a little bit like.
Yeah, I was joking off the top, but I was like, this is kind of sick, actually.
But Tom DeLonge would never write this song because he's so much better than this.
I think that's the problem. Is it's like on principle, this is impossible.
So another thing online here is that, and I was tempted to mislead you and get you excited, but unfortunately, there are no actual parodies of this song. But this was uploaded with the word this is uploaded with the word video parody spelled with an I.
Oh.
This is by Pasti Poulang. So I was like, oh, did they parody the video somehow? But I think this is just one of those things where, like, on the internet, the word parody just means, like, you uploaded something.
Right.
Like,
it's
the word
you
parody,
instead of
what does it
Blink-182
mean?
just, like, in the video.
Yeah, but it's not even that. There's just, like, 12 guys standing on a rock by water, and there's a camera slow motion. Like, they're all, like, kind of posing epically.
These are some cool guys, though.
I mean, in terms of it being a parody, it's not very funny.
No.
And I think in that sense, it fails a lot. But
it's a really cool rock.
Yeah, like, just some guys, like, standing on a rock and someone filming them in slow motion. And it's only 40 seconds long. I mean, maybe it is a really good parody. Because they've sort of subverted the silliness of the song and just made this serious, epic or maybe it's about how they wanted it to be a rock anthem, and then they've gone onto an actual rock. And so that's the parody.
Also,
aspect.
I'm pretty sure this is Indonesian.
I was thinking that.
Because there's another video on this channel. There's no location or anything, but there is a video that's called Go to Pentai Alak, which I have now Googled and I've discovered is like a, I don't know, it's a beach or it's like a park or something in Indonesia. So at the very least, these people have been to Indonesia.
I feel like I'm starting to like be able to recognize sort of like what looks like Indonesian names or what looks like Indonesian locations or something, but I'm so nervous.
Well, yeah, that's a dangerous dangerous skill that you're describing, my man.
I definitely was like, I saw this and I was like, oh, this is Indonesian, but then I was like, no, you don't know that.
Yeah,
but I was right, and so I'm one step closer to fully starting to believe that. I can picture it, and now
one of your skills is being able to identify race based on. If I can just touch their skull, it's
not any. Only Indonesian pop punk videos.
Right. Okay.
That's it. That's my only skill. So, anyways, by the time this comes out, you will have seen the Lil Peep documentary. So how is it? Tell us.
You know, you really can feel the influence of executive producer Terrence Malick. You know, it's not necessary.
So it's pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 7 hours long. I didn't understand it, but I gave it a high rating on Letterboxd so people would think that I'm smart.
Well, Terrence Malick also kind of ties into the general American Nightmare season of the pod lately because last week, as I was talking about with our guest Giles, supposedly Ryan Gosling stage dived during an American Nightmare set while filming that shitty Terrence Malick Music Festival movie. But I don't think it's true. I think it was like another, misinformation was a lot different when the B9 board was still up. And now it's just like we've had to find new ways to spread misinformation. And so I don't know. I don't think it's true.
Tough.
But Terrence Malick's still kind of in the Patrick Stump American Nightmare universe, which now includes Lil Peep.
Let's get Terrence Malick on the pod.
That would, okay.
I'm going to send some emails.
Yeah. So anyways, you've seen the Lil Peep movie. You said that you hated it and that Lil Peep is whack, I believe were your words.
That's exactly what I said.
But no, Lil Peep is among the people who've kind of like helped usher in the post-California relevance of Blink-182. Added to that, we've talked about Blink-182 type beats being sort of a new genre. Mm-hmm. We're still going to do a exclusive one day where we talk about all the Blink-182 type beats out there. I can't wait to dig into that. But not only that, what I found is a Lil Peep times Blink-182 type beat, and it's called Sober. So, I mean, that's just really...
Let's do
everything. I like the idea of waiting to start the video until you do some sort of prompt.
Right, like, because sometimes I feel like there is a lag, and I'm like, are you waiting for me to be like, damn, can't wait to hear this one? Play that shit, Josiah. The problem that Blink started to actually sound like Blink-182 type beats.
Yeah, this just sounds like on some emo shit.
Yeah.
At the bodega.
Dude, I don't mean to brag, but when I was in New York last week, I saw a Soho gallery.
Did you? Why didn't you? Where's our music video that you?
Right,
promised?
I know. I said I was going to shoot one. It was a little too hectic. But next time I'm there, I'm gonna all the locations, iconic locations from the song.
You scouted them all.
Yeah. That's what I wanted. So next time it'll be like a more working focus trip.
Oh man, On Some Emo Shit is actually better than any song on California.
Yeah, I think so. That's Soho gallery. Like it's.
So that was a Blink-182 type beat, and I thought that would be an excellent sort of intro into our infamous covers section.
The people love it.
So Sam, I'm going to warn you. Everyone under the sun has decided to cover this fucking song,
fuck.
And it is our last time with California. So I thought, I should probably be a little comprehensive.
I'm so glad you finally decided to be comprehensive, Josiah.
Yeah, instead of instead of just this surface level read of the cover. So to start it off, though, because it's such a seamless transition from what we just played before we both took a lengthy bathroom break here. But we just played sort of Blink-182 type beats, so I thought, why don't we start with a remix? And so this is from Eden Michelle. It's a sober remix.
Play that
really,
shit, Josiah. Oh, sorry.
The art is like so bad. I can't believe this. I didn't really look at it earlier, but it's just terrifying.
It definitely looks like an electronica night in like a small Canadian town.
Yeah,
in
like
2004.
Nelson, BC. Or like I think those nights are still happening though.
Yeah, totally. It's just today.
Very like methy kind of feel to the design of this.
Yeah, I like it.
Me too.
Honestly, this is the thing. Like when someone makes it sound like a Chainsmokers song, like that chorus is not bad.
I know. I wish that Blink-182 would just like go straight up and do this. And for some reason, when they do like the Steve Aoki collaborations, it never sounds like this though. I think they just need to work with like a 13-year-old from Nelson, BC, or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. If you're 13 and you live in a small town in BC,
please, if you're 13, please contact us.
Fuck.
Not weird. Normal thing to say. Okay, I'm gonna skip a couple of these because I just feel like, you know what? I talk a big game, but I see some of these fucking acoustic people and they're so punchable. I just think, well, this is like some of that energy, but also at least someone we've never seen before. This person's name, well, the channel is Philip and Danielle, so it must be one of those like, you know, when like married couples have like joint email addresses.
Yeah, do you not have that? Do you let Sarah just like get her own emails?
That was a big mistake.
Yeah.
Ever since I allowed that, it's been
you've lost control of your household.
Yeah, exactly. So Philip and Daniel, I assume, I don't want to make major assumptions, but I feel like I'm getting more of a Philip than a Danielle energy from this person. They write, "This is my first live cover of a Blink song. I love Blink. I just never had the time to finish a cover, but I hope you will like this cover and give it a thumbs up." And then there's a little sort of parenthetical here that says only the vocals are live. So they've already kind of...
Okay, it's already a bit of a cop-out, but that's fine.
And it looks... I'm getting a man cave energy from here. Actually, this person reminds me of David's boyfriend on Schitt's Creek. So that was another thing, because I'm still working my way through that show, and I was like, oh, it kind of looks like that guy.
I know I'm messed up and it might be over.
But he used this like,
wow,
when I'm sober.
That's a cool accent.
Let me call you when I'm sober. No.
This is definitely one of the accents that Robert Pattinson does in The Lighthouse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's Danielle?
Where's Danielle? What's she doing? Who's clearly in the man cave with that Jack Daniels thing on the wall. I love that sort of, that's an underrated pop punk voice. Like there's the whine that people do, or there's like the quiet yelling that people do, but he's kind of doing the like he's kind of has that energy while he sings.
Yeah, I know I'm messed up
and it might be over. he's kind of singing it with like the roof of his mouth and like kind of sort of a grunty, like shitting kind of sound.
He's not, yeah. So it's like respect to that. Fellow shitter, but he's not really utilizing like the lower 2/3 of his mouth for sound purposes. So I was just like scrolling through their uploads to see if like, because the first couple of thumbnails are all Philip, and it's a very Philip and Danielle. I don't feel there's an even weight to their to who's getting a platform here, but
maybe Danielle was like, look, if you're gonna start a channel, you better fucking put that you're taking in there, because people are going to see your live videos and hear you sing through the top of your the bottom of your nose and the upper part of your roof of your mouth, and they're going to not be able to resist.
No, it's true.
So they need to know that there's a Danielle in here too.
That's easily the horniest cover we've ever played. No, I'm just like obsessed. So the first time you can see her face on the channel, they've uploaded a video, "Gone, Gone, Gone" by Philip and Danielle, Philip Phillips. Like, it's just, I know that Philip Phillips is a person, but there's just like one of those things where like the only word in there that isn't repeated 3 times is Danielle. It's just like looking at that title makes me kind of shudder.
I feel like look, I don't want to pry, but I feel like they might need an outside party to help them work through these YouTube issues.
Yeah, so we're happy to sort of come in and help mediate if you need it.
That'd be a good podcast, like YouTuber marriage counseling.
Yeah, they all fucking need it.
So this next one, while you were blabbering on, I did some research. And I was correct that these people are also from Indonesia, and I just got that vibe. I just knew that it was, but I was afraid to say it. And I think I should just start flying closer to the sun and saying when I think something is Indonesian.
Listen, we've only got a year left, and I think like this is the time for you to start taking risks, man.
It's like such a delicious kind of gamble. Like I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat, but I was right. So Way Out Life, all one word. They're covering Blink-182 Sober. And they're Indonesian as fuck, and I called it. So I just think that everyone should appreciate that.
No, honestly, being able to guess someone's race is a really cool skill. Or ethnicity or whatever. I don't fucking know. I already regret everything.
I would like for you to get canceled from this conversation, not me. Like, look at these guys. They're so happy also.
How have we
not
been invited to Indonesia, literally the country where Blink-182 is the most popular? And I don't think we have any. Do we have, like, any?
Yeah, we have at least one Indonesian listener.
It just feels like there should be more. Like, what are we doing wrong to alienate a country that we love so dearly?
This video is so well done. Like, first of all, this cover is delightful. Second of all, these people are all so in your face as they're singing. Like, literally, it's so close to their face. And they keep switching cams to, like, I feel like they're all wearing GoPros on, like, harmonica holders. And it's, like, a nice sepia tone video.
And, like, one of the primary shots is just them in the van. And it really looks like them just hanging out, singing together as buds.
There's so much guitar noodling going on. I love it.
Okay, I don't know if the song is good, but Way Out Life is.
Well, listen to those harms.
Because they're good, not on us.
Oh, I love this. Shout out to Way Out Life. Thank you for just confirming numerous things for me, both that...
You are from Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you for that. Also, the top comment, this is our first time to make music cover.
What?
Hope you enjoy it. I definitely do, Way Out Life. Thank you. Great one. Loved it.
A great one.
Now, up next, before I truly get in trouble, I'm going to go to the next one. This one I think is more for the Sams of the world here.
Ooh, is it like a warehouse like on the edge of Gainesville during a fest weekend or something?
No, in fact, it's like possibly the most clean-cut man I've ever seen in my life. In the truest basement suite of all time, with a bobblehead of a sports person on the ledge.
Oh wow, that's a bad toy, huh?
That wasn't what was giving me Sam energy, although I feel like this could be Sam energy in like 10 years, maybe.
Wow, what the fuck?
Like you could work up to this.
I guess like the first 3 years of this podcast were all you kind of like, I mean, like, you know, a little ribbing, but mostly I think we've been very nice to each other. And now all of a sudden, like, didn't you, like, was it last week or 2 weeks ago where you said I had like early riser energy? Like it was.
Yeah. Look, I'm
the
just
knives
ready.
are out in this last year.
It's less than a year. Yeah, let's just fucking.
Let's see what we fucking mean then. I guess, hey Josiah,
Exactly.
let's finally
That's
say
what I'm
what
trying
we
to say.
mean.
And I agree. Same with the bike couriers. Don't feed me some story about how it was someone else's fault.
Wow.
Just take responsibility. I'm ready to become the truest villain. It's back to being the mean one for me. But no, the reason I said it was Sam energy is because this is a fucking Alkaline Trio mashup. I don't think you can do a mashup if you're not like. Fucking, if you don't have Ableton Live running, you know what I mean?
But he's got a keyboard in the back.
Like he's
Maybe
just
there's some technology involved here. I haven't listened to it
yet. I think he's just playing both songs at once, but I don't even know if I know Mercy Me by Alkaline Trio.
It's a great song. Crimson. Fantastic.
Well, let's see how it sounds. And so the username is MikeLive1285. Quick mashup I did for Blink's new song Sober and Mercy Me by Alkaline Trio. Honestly, this sounds so much like Neutral Milk Hotel with those classical strings.
Yeah, strumming the classical guitar.
This is Neutral Milk Hotel.
Yeah, this is from like the Oak Island or whatever, the record that no one listens to. I feel like he just changed songs.
Yeah, it's not really a mashup.
Chicago, I used to long for time alone. I used to long for a place of my own. And I lost faith in everything. I'm lost, so lost. I'm lost without you. Oh, mercy me. God bless catastrophe. There's no way in hell we'll ever live to see.
So that was a mashup of Alkaline Trio and I Was Born a Carrot Man or whatever the fuck that Neutral Milk Hotel is.
Yeah, Carrot God.
I'm the guy with all the carrots.
Yeah. It's
about Peter Rabbit.
That was the concept album. Yeah, he read Peter Rabbit and wrote a whole album about how he wanted to fuck Peter Rabbit, basically. I think is kind of the story there.
I mean, once you've heard the James Corden version of Peter Rabbit, that Peter Rabbit is mad fuckable. This is a really good Vampire Weekend original in the new Peter Rabbit movie. So another win for Vampire Weekend.
Hell yeah, congratulations, fellas.
All right, so there's that guy, and now there's this one. This is my new kind of segue. There's all kinds, but the thing is, like, I actually love when people cover them in a different language because that's really interesting to me. And so just like, I don't know, just fucking do something with your covers. At least that last guy was trying in his basement suite. All these other acoustic ones that I skipped over are just like so painfully normy and boring. But this one's not because it's in Spanish. It's a cover on Espanol, and I am getting better with languages.
That's amazing. The new, very global Josiah that's revealing himself in the last half an hour.
I'm gunning for a NPR job here. This is uploaded by OMXR, and here we go. I'm just forgetting how to introduce songs.
Yeah, you're just like, I was like, are you killing time right now? Like, what's happening?
Lado oeste, 7 AM, para estar seguro. llamo, soy diente de león, tu trébol de cuatro. Cuando estés sobrio, yo te llamo. Na, na, na.
I don't want to brag, but I think I know exactly what they were saying
No.
in that song. I'm pretty sure roughly it translates to this old Pageman proverb. I know I messed up. It might be over. But let me call you when I'm sober.
Wow.
I'm a dandelion and you're a 4-leaf clover.
You should get that on a doily of some kind. I need to kind of, like I've got the rope and piece what do you call it, like needlepoint or whatever, which is quite beautiful, but I feel like I need to accumulate more like doilies, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, you have some cum rags, don't you?
I got some cum rags. That's true. I got some cum rags. And
by the way, cum rags, I think, are the only merch item that we still have like a couple left.
Because people had to email you direct.
Yeah, well, you still can. If you want to email me direct, I'll send you a cum rag. So go for it. Oh, the one I just sent you is too boring. Actually, I'm going to skip it. I'm doing some editing on the fly because I'm such a good friend at this point.
Wow, thank you so much.
Just trying to save us.
This is good. I can see that you really do care. Like all the jokes are just jokes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, are they?
No, that's true.
Time will tell. But okay, this is by Jenny Marie, and it's episode 4 of her cover series. So obviously, those of us who've been watching Jenny Marie's cover series already knew that. But this is episode 4.
I know I messed up and it might be over. Let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf
She's added emojis that pop up with the
Let me call
lyrics,
you
just so
when
everyone
I'm
knows.
sober. Na, 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 na,
Oh,
na,
yeah.
I like this one 'cause
na, na, na,
this is like
na,
uke ska right now.
na, 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 na,
I like it.
na, na, na. I woke up in the pouring rain. Westside Humboldt, 7 a.m. Sleep in my dumpster to keep me dry with the radio on and a new black eye. And I bet you could have knocked me out. And I guess you really got me now. Black sedan, ran a red light. Just a drunken mic messenger on Tuesday night. I know I messed up and it might be.
Okay, I don't want to be mean, but I do feel like this does fit into the realm of the Wednesday Wisdom Twitter account, kind of. Like, maybe that's who this
Right,
is
yeah. So you're
for.
saying that Jenny Marie is definitely like, maybe this is where she heard the song, was being like, it's true. Doing dumb stuff is too cool.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. She's like so good at singing, though. Like, it sounded really
No,
nice.
I did
and
really like it. A different version
I've never
of me would
heard
have loved it.
I've never heard ska upstrokes on a uke before, and so that's really cool. What's Next to Normal? She has something called Next to Normal on her wall. Oh, it's an American rock musical
Nice.
from 2008. Written by Sam Sutherland.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, oh, I was just waiting. I was like, when are you going to notice? It's me.
It's like, and written by Sam Sutherland and given to Fiddler by Nardwar. Wow.
Thanks for remembering.
Okay, moving along. Unless we have anything else to say about whatever her name is, Jenny
No,
Marie.
this is great.
I think I didn't like that she was adding the emojis because then I was seeing the clover pop up, and I don't want to see the clover. Come on. Like, don't remind me that there's a 4-leaf clover in this song.
You have to say it in the accent. It's like saying putain. Or
Yeah, exactly. I'm still not saying that one yet. I'm trying really hard not to.
yeah, I give you a week.
There's so many, like, obviously there's so many kids playing guitar in their bedroom. This kid kind of sucks, but the energy is so sick. I mean, this kid is truly on stage while he's playing. This is DeLunge 182. It's mostly about the visuals, but obviously played in the background, but, like, he starts the song and then he does like that like guitarist half mosh move.
Yeah, no, and he's got like the dress shirt kind of buttoned all the way up. The hair is kind of perfect. Like this kid definitely like felt he's going to recruit him for whatever the like upcoming five sauce like
groom,
you know
he's going to groom him for
is.
a pop punk band. I mean, look, the guitar sounds like shit, but then he lip syncs along with the music, and he has so much stage presence. I mean, he's literally better than Matt Skiba.
Yeah, like I'm engaged by this kid.
He's nailing the palm mutes. I think actually,
I want this
mostly
hair.
he just can't hear it.
No.
Yeah, I don't think many people can pull off this hair because what it is that he's just so pale, and he really should not have this hair, but it makes him look so ghostly when he has it in such a good way.
It's cool. I'm gonna dye my hair jet black and do this sort of like not quite emo flop. It looks sick.
Also, he's clearly rich because he has a Voss water on his nightstand.
Yeah, I want to be this kid. Just period.
This kid rules.
Kid's got
Shout out to
money.
DeLunge.
Sick
And someone has commented on the video, "Ruined me, daddy." XO.
Wow.
I'm gonna reply to that. Same TBH. Okay, there's a little Easter egg for. Hopefully, he'll find his way back to this and figure it out that we've just given him his big break.
This is it. It's happening live on the pod.
Oh shit! This kid like reviews amps and stuff too. That's so sick.
It doesn't look like there's been a lot of posts in the last like year. Oh, he cut his hair. Kid.
Yeah, I know. Not very. It looks like he sort of rebranded a little bit and moved away from the emo look. But he had such good stage presence for that 1 second. I don't know. I feel like he could have been like one of the guitarists and counterparts or something.
Yeah, totally.
Like just like every like mainstream, just like capital H hardcore band always has one member like this with emo hair who's really good at jumping up and down during the breaks where they're not playing guitar.
Wouldn't it be? I look so dumb playing guitar. Do you look cool playing guitar?
I don't know. I can't tell. Also, like playing guitar is not really very cool to begin. I feel like if you think that you could look cool playing guitar, you're already doing it wrong. You know what I mean? You're approaching life from the wrong perspective.
Wow, this is an outdoor ass video. This is not just an outdoor drum cover. This is everybody outside.
And this band is called Failland. Failland. I don't know how to say it. Failand. It's like yes and, but
all their covers are outside.
Failand. Yeah, I think they're just like playing along to a pre-recorded track. But let's see. So this is a band called Failand on their account, Failand TV. Did you say I'm a tenderloin?
Yeah.
Or am I just really hungry?
I think that's it.
No, maybe the na-na-nas are actually terrible. They sound like what I imagine the undeclared theme song sounds like, but I don't remember it.
It works when you're doing upstrokes on a ukulele, but This is not good.
I think the drummer and the guitarist are the same guy, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's very astute of you.
Well, here, listen, there's some keyboards here. There's like some Owl City keyboards. So yeah, I guess it should bear saying out loud, as Sam mentioned, that they're like on the edge of a cliff in a desert for this.
Yeah, there's thing. People there's some like electrical wires, but I can't see any roads. Like they'd really trekked off grid to get this video done.
It feels like they could get mauled by a mountain lion at any given moment.
I'm definitely worried about them.
I'm not going to say whether or not I was hoping for that to happen, but I'm just going to move along away from Fail and. So I guess shout out to Fail and for, I mean, at least for lugging all their shit out to a cliff.
Yeah, I respect the
video.
effort. That's the thing.
So this next one is another like full band cover, and I think it's like very full bandy. This is uploaded by Ageless Music. The band is called Ageless, which is a strange name for a band, I think, maybe. But wait, is this band called Ageless? Because it says sober cover featuring Ageless.
Right, but it's on Ageless.
So now I'm even more
Music
confused.
No, Ageless is the band, but they also are featured in it, which is exciting.
I mean, I guess that's the way it always should be, right?
Yeah.
They've
Every song sounds like Drake featuring Drake. I mean, still a great line.
When was the last time you had a Drake dance party in your kitchen?
Too long, Josiah. Next time you come here, we'll definitely be sure to.
That's too bad.
Yeah, to make it happen for you.
That's what's everyone listening to in Toronto right now when you walk around?
It's still just Drake. It's the only thing. Oh, so okay, Phaland are from Valencia. So that was a Valencian landscape, I guess.
You know what? I was gonna say that because I got that vibe.
But you were worried.
Didn't want to risk
I get
it. Okay, here's Ageless. I like that Ageless also has done like a full band cover and shot like a actual music video. Basically, here we go.
Now I messed up and it might be over. Let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dancing line, you're fully clover. Let me call you when I'm sober. West side Humboldt, 7 a.m. Slipping by a dumpster to keep me dry. With the radio on and a new black eye. But you couldn't knock me out. And I guess you really got me now. Black sedan, red a red light. Just a drunken white messenger on Tuesday night. Now I messed up and it might be over. Let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a fool.
I fucking love this
That was
one.
so fucking good. Like that feels like that. Okay, so fuck the Chainsmokers thing. Like I still don't love the chorus, but like that's how that song should sound. Like imagine if you heard that song in 1995, it would change your fucking life.
Yeah, and like the singer's vocals are so good. They sound so
The
awesome.
two of them together
and
sound fucking great. That was sick. That was legitimately so sick.
I think I love this band, Ageless.
Well, I've got some good news for you. This band, Ageless, is from one of your many hometowns.
Indonesia.
Because at some point I was like, those condos that they're drinking in front of look like Canadian to me. So I thought maybe they were from Toronto, but they're actually from the other Toronto, Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
and they are an indie rock band. Because I was thinking that it kind of did sound like a little bit K Records-y or Twee or something.
Yeah, or it could be very like, maybe it's just like that Mint Records, influence just prevalent on that coast, you know?
And they're using a Blue Yeti mic to record.
So
They're also a pro pod band. So many things to love here about this band. But yeah, I really did love that cover. It's so good. But we still there's still a lot left, so let's just fucking keep plowing ahead. This one is another full band cover. This one I really love. So this is something called the Music Puzzle Concert in 2018. Art Lab, it says, I don't know, this is another language. I don't know what any of this says. I don't know if the band is called Art, maybe the band is called Music Puzzle. That's probably right. Because there's an Art Lab thing at the start. Either way, okay, let's figure this out. This band is really amazing. I think this is my favorite band now.
it's a long intro here.
Okay, so there's two guys who have like 2006 Sum 41 skinny ties on with like messy hair and eyeliner, and then the drummer's just wearing a gym strip, and the bass player is like possibly a teacher at this school.
Yeah.
He's like, looks like he's like 50 and he's playing with his fingers.
That's so funny.
There's like an insanely shitty PowerPoint picture of the California album cover, and then one camera just shows you that there's literally no one watching them in this gymnasium.
Oh, this kid wants to be Billy Joe Armstrong so bad. It's so great.
I kind of like how he's changing the intonation of the words.
Yeah, make it your own, bud.
This is so sick. This is like my dream kind of teen video. I feel so alive when I find these, especially the teacher. I think the teacher has a 5-string bass too. So cool.
This makes me happy for the teacher that they're just having such a groovy time still, you know?
Does the singer boy have like a? I think he probably got one of his girlfriends. You know what I mean? Like he probably has different girlfriends at different schools. He seems like a bit of a player. But I think he got one of his girlfriends to like draw a ballpoint tattoo on his hand for this big concert. Like if you go to like 1:30 on his right hand, there's like this intense. It looks like a hand tattoo, but it ends very quickly because probably the bell rang while the girl was drawing it.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's a cool thing for you to have, singer boy.
Is there anything better than just watching teens cover a Blink-182 song to an empty gymnasium with one of their teachers subbing in? It's so good.
It's pretty good. I mean, I would wager like simple things like eating dinner,
well,
spending time with loved ones.
I don't think either of us need to do those things tonight because instead, here's a video of a girl doing a karaoke version of it alone. That's better than dinner. This is 95 views on October 9th, 2018 uploaded. This is by ETAW channel. And just in case you thought she doesn't own the track, I just didn't know if you knew that.
Okay, that's good. Good to know.
And here we go.
I know I messed up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a four-leaf clover, so let me call you when I'm sober.
This is the Molotov cocktail piano version, which sounds very nice,
lovely.
actually.
I woke up in the pouring rain, west side Humboldt 7 a.m.
I think this singer has pretty nice chops too.
I think this is quite charming, to be honest. And she's like really like giving it like facially, you can tell she's invested. This is not like a lackadaisical
She's like
karaoke time.
It's like there is some shit on her wall though. You need to wipe your wall, girl.
Yeah, Jesus. I was like,
there's some dookie on there.
Yeah.
Whoa. The singing is getting a little bit too good for me, where she's like, na na na.
The only comment,
so
only comment here is from Molotov Cocktail Piano themselves, saying, "Sounds great."
Because she made sure to give them credit, so they must have reverse searched themselves. Because anyone who puts content online is completely psychotic about making sure that
I do not
people are
own
talking
this.
about them. Yeah. Okay, there's still more. We got to power through this. I've saved the weirdest for last. So first of all, this is a cover of the song by one of the other Blink-182 podcasts.
What?
Yeah. So that's
Okay,
already
that's
something.
cool. That's cool.
This is Take Off Your Pants and podcast cover of Sober. And I respect this so much because they've done something different with it. They've turned it into a country song. So that's
Okay.
I mean, as much as I would like to start a pod war, I'm going into this with a deal of respect for this situation here.
I like that you didn't say a great deal, but just respect is present.
Yeah.
I've just never heard anyone say a good deal, a great deal. I've never heard there's an amount of respect here.
A deal of respect.
One deal's worth.
Sober, I woke up in the pouring rain. West side Humboldt 7 a.m. Sleeping by a dumpster to keep me dry with the radio on and a new black eye. But I bet you couldn't knock me out, and I guess you really got me now. Black sedan on a red light, just a drunken bike messenger of Tuesday night. No one messed up and it might be over. Let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a four-leaf clover. But let me call you when I'm sober.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cute.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Sounds like they're having some fun over there.
Just
the Take Off Your Pants and podcast.
Can't imagine what that must be like to enjoy your podcast.
Stealing our idea to do a
that part's
Blink-182
kind of
podcast. I mean,
or
but
bad.
other than that, whatever. That was pretty good. I mean, it was almost. I wish that it was like a serious country cover. Sound a little bit. Have some respect for the source material, guys. Come on.
It's true, yeah. Of all people, I'd feel like fellow sort of podmen should respect the code. But.
Exactly. Okay, there's 2 left, and then I've got sort of a background music one for the end. But this one is uploaded by Christo.
Oh, great
messing around with my new my new Blue Yeti recording setup. Oh, baby. Okay, combining ukulele, banjo, accordion, and basic percussion. I think that there's some beatboxing on this, too. It's very upsetting.
I know I messed up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf clover, but let me call you when I'm sober. Na, 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 na.
Just making love to that Blue Yeti.
Oh, yeah. You only get that kind of sound out of a Blue Yeti, you know?
I woke up in the pouring rain. Westside humble at 7 a.m. Sleeping by a dumpster to keep me dry with the radio on and the new black eyes. I bet you couldn't knock me out, and I guess you really got me.
To be honest, to bring it back to Canada, if this was a classified song, I would not be surprised.
Right. Whereas I'm also not surprised to find that this person is Dutch.
Well, again, I was getting that vibe, but I didn't want to say.
Yeah. This feels like authentic Dutch culture to me, I think.
Like, what kind of music is this, and why does it also sound so horny?
Dude, that's just what that whole country is like.
Yeah. I don't know, like, just get the mic out of your fucking mouth. Back up a little
bit. The Yeti is almost too good for Christo. I do not like that at all.
Okay, here's the last one. I don't even remember what this sounds like, even though I wrote it down we've been potting for like 7 years tonight.
Yeah.
It feels like. Just really. This is uploaded by, I don't know what this says. Riff and Iwee. Riff and Iwee?
Riff and Iwee.
Unfortunately, this is just a preview for the cover, so it's only a minute long. So I don't know. I didn't bother checking if they ever finished the actual thing, but here's what the preview sounds like.
I know I fucked up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf clover, but let me call you when I'm sober.
That's something, man.
I do enjoy that California has given us another episode that's going to be almost 3 hours long.
Yeah,
and I feel sick right now from what I've just heard. I like this feeling of just pure disorientation. So, anyways, as we go into final thoughts,
but wait, where do you think where do you think that? Sorry, what was it? Reefy and fuck, I closed the window. Where do you think that person's from?
Did you look?
Yeah. So I know, but I feel like you should be able to tell.
I think that they're from Surrey, BC.
You're right. You're absolutely right. No, they're from Nelson. No, that's another Indonesian cover.
Wait, really?
Which I know you knew, and you were just being funny.
I didn't. No, I was thinking because usually the Indonesian covers are like very pop punk and like have the aesthetic tight, and that was more like
that didn't sound
some sort of
like what we
very
know.
Cursed. That was just very cursed all around. Cursed, yeah. I would even say.
No, according to their Twitter, they're from Teluk Betong City.
And I believe that is the correct pronunciation. So anyways, moving into final thoughts, I'm going to play the Sparrow Sleeps Lullaby version of the song. because we need to calm down a little bit. And it is bedtime because we've been potting for so long.
Yeah, I think so. So, Josiah, what are your final thoughts on the song Sober by the band Blink-182 and the entirety of California? This is nice.
I came in at such a good time.
Sick.
I love knowing that. I guess that's why they do first thought, best thought all the time, because I love knowing that my first instinct is almost always exactly how I feel later on. Like I thought that I would come back around and be like, oh, this song's actually good, but it fucking sucks, and it's so gross and shitty, and I do not think that anyone should be saying 4-leaf clover in a song. So that's my final thoughts. As for California, it's been a great journey. I think California Deluxe was even more fun, and I don't know. We're gonna be killing off more albums to come. It's gonna get harder with each one, I think, to just ruthlessly execute it and let it bleed out in the street.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a little disappointed that we never got into the notion of sobriety. But I do feel like maybe that's an aspect of your life that we plumbed fairly thoroughly in other, perhaps better episodes.
Well, I don't know if there are any episodes better than this one, but
that's also fair. For me, this song is mostly Dad. That cover by Ageless from your hometown, that kind of turned it around for me. But I'm back in the pit again, hating this song, hating California.
And hating the pod.
No, but blessed to be here, sort of sharing these excruciating moments together with you and with the entire nation.
It's really uncomfortable, actually.
Don't
to have
like
this
it at all.
It becomes too intimate.
No, it's like I can feel us looking at each other when it plays. I don't care for it.
I know I messed up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf clover, but let me call you when I'm sober. Na 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 na.
The people have demanded it. You have delivered. Of course, we are finally joined on this episode thanks to a robust, fairly recent Twitter account, but general badgering over the length of this podcast. Your friend and mine, Mr. Tony Fantano, a.k.a. The Needle Drop, a.k.a. the internet's busiest music nerd, best teeth in the game, and so on and so forth. Anthony Fantano, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You know all of my nicknames, my catchphrases, my accolades. I appreciate that.
I like the idea of that being also the entirety of your accolades as well. You're like, these are the only nice things that people have to say about me. They have to do with my mouth.
There are more, but I can't talk forever. I got to get right to the review. You know what I mean? So to list them all off,
right? It would get repetitive and it would bore people. They want get to the chorus, as they say.
Exactly.
Now, this is a team up that the people have demanded, because when it comes to talking extensively about a very specific musical thing on the internet, this is an area in which you have excelled, in which you have really sort of defined the space. And so in the broadest possible sense, I would love to know what you, Anthony Fantano's, real relationship is with the band Blink-182. Like, just on their face, how do you feel about these boys?
Before I answer that, can I ask you how old you are? How old are you? I'm a little older than you, right?
I'm 34. I was born in 85.
Okay, so we're the same fucking age. Mm-hmm. My relationship to Blink-182 is similar to that of many artists that were just popular mainstream rock artists around this time. Late 90s. I was a big consumer of just rock radio, pop radio, hip hop radio, MTV, and was around this time, I think, if I remember correctly, because this is before I was in high school. This is like 8th grade. And I think I was just maybe transitioning into CDs. I must have been, because I knew I had the Eminem Slim Shady LP CD. I still had my boombox, though.
It's an important transitional moment in a young person's life, what you're describing.
It's a format transition, because up until that point, I had a boombox with tons of cassette tapes with Rage Against the Machine and Red Hot Chili Peppers and TLC and Weird Al Yankovic, and I had a fucking Coolio tape and Bush and The Offspring and also lots of music from Tupac and Biggie and Dr. Dre that I was just copying off the radio.
Now, did you know that in Canada, Bush had to be called Bush X because there was a Canadian band called Bush before that?
No, I did not, and that's very funny.
It's great. To be honest, I actually think it's a better name. Anyway, so do what you will with that information, but it seemed like something you might appreciate.
But yeah, lots of other artists that I just copied my favorite songs off the radio with just spare cassette tapes that I had, even cassette tapes from other artists that I knew were bad, and I didn't have an extra tape, so I just would tape over another tape I thought was crappy. Because there were some tapes or some albums that I either didn't have the money to buy, or of course your parents won't let you get them because they, you hear they're full of bad content or whatever. So I would just copy it off the radio. So I had, my own little collection of tapes, but then when CDs came out and CD players came out, that was exciting, especially since, even as a kid, I was annoyed by the fact that my tapes that I had just played to death were now starting to sound like shit. And, you play a CD over and over and over, no matter how many times, and it sounds the same, and you could skip to the next song. You don't have to fast forward over and over and over. Like on my little cassette tapes that I would copy off the radio, sometimes because I wasn't making proper labels or anything because I was a kid, I would fast forward and be rewinding for minutes at a time just to find the fucking song that I had recorded. So transitioning over to CDs, I remember some of the earliest CDs I had and I listened to on a regular basis included Enema of the State. So I did have that, even though up until that point, I wouldn't have considered myself like a big pop punk fan or anything. I think some of the other CDs that I had early on were like, God, what was that Rob Zombie CD he came out with around that time?
The one with Dragula.
Had Dragula on it. Yeah, had Dragula on it.
Psychobilly 6000 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. I had that CD. I think I've gotten the new Rage CD at that point. I forget when Battle of Los Angeles came out. Was it late 90s or early 2000s? I know I did have that. I know I did have that CD though. But around this time, I definitely had Enema of the State. I thought it was a good CD. I thought it was a good album. I had fun listening to it. I wouldn't say that my tastes around that time were refined enough to where I'm knowing what's the difference between punk music, pop punk music, hardcore punk music. I just listened to Rob Zombie in the same way that I listened to Blink-182 in the same way that I listened to any other band that I thought was just a rock band. You know what I mean? And that, that was just like a beautifully naive time in my life when it all just sounded the same to me. And there wasn't oh, well, this genre is actually this because of these aspects and blah, blah, blah.
It's always such a trip to go back to old mixes that you might have made for yourself when you did have that innocence, before, when everything was just a little flatter. I have the CD that I remember very vividly because I made it for a school trip, and I was so excited because I had a CD burner at that point, so I could make this sick mix for myself. And towards the end of the CD, it went Stained into Pixies, into Jimmy World, into Fugazi. It was one of those things where, to me, though, that was all the same, right? And now I would bring such pretension to anyone who tried to run those songs together. Although actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe today I'd be fine with it. Maybe 2 years ago I might have been pretentious about it. But it is a weird moment, right?
Oh, absolutely. And in a few years, though, after this point, I would start getting a bit more of a sense of what genres and separators are, because I became so deeply just embedded into the whole nu metal thing, and a lot of bands and artists that also crossed over into that audience in terms of just listenership. I was huge into, as I said earlier, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, Slipknot, System of a Down, and a lot of the worst bands that were coming out of this era too, like Coal Chamber,
great
Power Man 5000.
Two great bands.
Yeah. God, going back and listening to Coal Chamber as a 30-year-old is fucking rough. Like, let me tell you, there are a few groups that I listened to as a kid, or, even listened to some of their songs in passing, and maybe as a teenager, I had already decided I didn't like them that much. Like maybe Sum 41, for example. Like as a kid, I didn't fuck with Sum 41 that heavy. But as an adult, Sum 41 sounds way better than some of the groups I was enjoying
absolutely.
at the time, like Coal Chamber.
So I recently attended a Devil Driver show because they were opening for.
No, you did not.
Well, they were opening for Static X, who were, of course,
who
were doing
that Push It, amazing song.
Amazing. Wisconsin Death Grip, amazing song. The rest of it, not super familiar, but really loved those songs. And so they were supporting the 10th or 15th or 20th anniversary of Wisconsin Death Trip with a mysterious masked singer, of course, replacing the late Wayne Static. And we did see Devil Driver. And to be honest, they kind of fucking rocked. And they covered AWOL Nation, like they covered Sail, which was weird because they have a cover album where they do like some Johnny Cash songs and some like cooler songs. So this was questionable. But then they also covered Loco. Or, I don't even know if you would consider it a cover. Either way, hearing it live, in the year of our Lord 2019, super fucking sick, honestly.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was good live. It could have been good live. I know that in my trip down memory lane, I, funnily enough, not only it just wasn't enough for me to cringe at the studio recordings of tracks like Loco and Big Truck. I also had to go onto YouTube and look up live videos of them performing, and they were awful. God, were they awful. Like, everyone's completely off. No one's on tempo. It all sounds like shit. And it's like, wow, it was a crazy time for music. It truly was.
I miss it. Although I guess it's sort of coming back. Like the prevalence of like new metal sounds in some metalcore today truly, puts a spring in my step, it enlivens my spirit. Especially
some of the pop artists doing it, like Grimes, Poppy, Rina Sawayama, who that's a bit of a teaser, which I shouldn't give too much away about, but still, Poppy and Grimes, the way that they're bringing these new metal riffs into their brand of pop music, I think is really great.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not believe when I saw Poppy live last year, or maybe earlier this year, like how much of a kind of new metal show it was. And I hear
she's on Sumerian now.
That's so sick.
Which is like that's exactly where you want to be if you're doing a metal record.
Yeah,
they probably got like they may have even gotten some musicians just affiliated with the label, and they're just like, please back this, just like play on this record.
Well, I mean, we need our own, we need a North American answer to baby metal, I think. And so maybe this can kind of provide that with sort of foundational credibility and then just spooky, creepy poppy on top. Like, that would be very sick.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree.
I want to add, by the way, Rob Zombie album is not called Psychobilly 6000. It is called Hellbilly Deluxe is the name.
Hellbilly Deluxe. Yes, and Living Dead Girls on there too.
Super Beast.
Yes. So all bangers. So during this era in high school, I was kind of listening to all this stuff, Green Day Dookie as well. And eventually I would reach a point after meeting a friend of mine in high school who turned me on to a lot of old school punk, where I just sort of went through this phase where I just got into the old school stuff, thought it was better, thought it was more hardcore, thought it was more purist, thought it was superior. And for a long time, all I was really listening to was like old punk, obscure genres of metal and this, that, and the other thing. So a lot of that stuff we were just talking about, like, I totally threw out or ignored or got rid of. However, I will say most of my picks for what I thought was still good out of the music that I was listening to through my adolescence, still to this day into adulthood, I was like, okay, so, I definitely had like a good sense of what actually didn't suck. I picked out pretty early, like, okay, the Rage record is still good. Dookie's still great. Rammstein is still good. System of a Down is like truly one of the sickest fucking bands of all time.
Hell yes.
And Enema of the State still stayed in like, relatively medium rotation. It was just like a good pop punk record, even though I had sort of, thought myself to enjoy a bit more the Dookie record and enjoy a bit more other pop punk bands that I sort of looked up, like Screeching Weasel, for example. And this, again, was in part due to my friend, and also just being exposed to P2P file sharing, servers and platforms. Like I was a heavy Kazaa user, I was a heavy SoulSeek user, and I was just like downloading tons of songs, entire albums, like within minutes, and just listening to as much as I possibly could, and just being exposed to so many different genres and bands and eras of music. There was so much to, in my mind, catch up on that it like almost wasn't even like worth it to listen to new stuff. I just got tired of a lot of new stuff. Got kind of tired of like, I don't know, the whole TRL scene. Even though for a while it was like my favorite thing. I loved it. Like I couldn't get enough of the fucking Freak on a Leash music video. I couldn't get enough of seeing Limp Bizkit or System of a Down or whatever fucking video was like doing well on TRL that week. Couldn't get enough of the fucking Baby Hit Me One More Time, music video, that kind of shit. So, there was definitely a time where all of that stuff mattered to me a lot. But then after, I guess, kind of getting exposed to harder stuff, through my friend, through the internet, through a record store, which was like within driving distance of me. And this is when I had just gotten a job at a restaurant, cooking pizza. And this was before what most people would consider, quote unquote, the vinyl boom. So around this time, vinyl was super fucking cheap, way cheaper than CDs were at the time.
Right, because everything was just used and no one gave a shit about it.
No, there was new stuff too. So, so even a new record for the price of one CD, you can get 2 new records. Was how cheap it was, because literally there was not as much interest in the super early 2000s. Once I got out of high school and went into college, that's when a lot of that stuff started ramping up a little bit, and you saw vinyl prices climb a bit higher, and then it kind of consolidated a bit after the housing bubble popped, and you had so many different record stores close, and the ones that managed to stay open were able to raise their prices because there's less competition across the board. So that kind of fucked everything up, but still, like, prices back then were like great as far as new vinyl goes. Some of my favorite and most cherished records I bought during that time for very cheap. Like most of my Cramps records, most of my Misfits records, most of my Fugazi records as well. It's funny that you talk about there being a time in your life where you were listening to Fugazi and like, Stained and that sort of thing. Like as soon as I got exposed to bands like Fugazi, I was like, fuck this. Like I'm not listening to anything that sounds like this ever again. Like no more Godsmack. No more this.
No more Godsmack. And so for you, it was just a switch that flipped, and it didn't go in the other direction.
It was honestly just a switch that flipped. Every once in a while, there would be a newer group or artist that did grab my attention, and I did sort of get a CD of, or I did like take some time to get into their catalog. A few examples being like, obviously the White Stripes, obviously the Strokes, stuff like that. But for the most part, I was just diving my head straight into old school punk, and that's mostly where I was. Being from the area that I am, I was going to a lot of local shows and VFW shows, so I was exposed to a lot of metalcore, because that's kind of like what was the shit in Connecticut and in New England. This is where Hatebreed is from.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. We have tons of, or had tons of bands, and there's still old hardcore guys that go out to shows today. But had tons of bands in the area that just wanted to be the next Hatebreed or sound like Hatebreed. That scene was just like strong and just laced into every section of the state, wherever there was a music scene. So you couldn't really escape it all that much. Post-hardcore was also very popular at the time, so there was a lot of that floating around too. But most of the stuff that I listened to that was new was just kind of a little bit more on the underground side, and that was just the wave that I was on. And pop punk, while it wasn't my favorite blend of punk, I listened to it every once in a while, and I can say that Enema of the State did stick around. I got a little bit into some of the stuff that happened before then. Can't say I cared all that much for Take Your Pants Off and Jacket at the time when it came out, and I was transitioning into college and graduating high school. I didn't even listen to the self-titled, and I just ended up catching back up with Blink-182 later down the road as a music reviewer, like when Neighborhoods came out, and then obviously California later than that, and just covered the recent record 9.
So was that really the first time you had, I guess, gone back and really kind of thought about the band, when all of a sudden it was more of a professional obligation?
Yeah, by that point, by 2011, not only did I not have Enema anymore, but I just didn't really own a majority of the CDs that I used to have as a kid. There was a point in college where I think I had grown even more pretentious, and I sold like a bunch of my old CDs off, many of which like I still wish that I had. Ones that I had to repurchase, because I was like, damn, like what the fuck? Because I sort of went through that period where I transitioned out of punk a little bit, and I was still listening to it, but I was getting heavy into singer-songwriters like Tom Waits and jazz music and all that sort of stuff. And but then once I started reviewing and sort of broadening my horizons after closing them in a way, I sort of rekindled my enjoyment of not punk music, pop music, and rekindled my enjoyment of a lot of different things that, I sort of like thought weren't worth listening to because I just kind of filled my own head with like shit, which a lot of people do, but I'm not unique in sort of deciding these are the genres that I like and these are the genres that I don't. I mean, most people do that to some degree.
I think it's a really important part of defining your identity when you're younger, because you're like literally having to figure out who you are and find a method of expressing that to those around you to feel like understood and seen in the world, but also to like find your people, So
yeah, it's definitely a social thing. It's definitely a cultural thing. Yeah. And there's definitely an identity component to it as well. Around this time, I think I was getting into a lot of indie music too, Neutral Milk Hotel and Arcade Fire and Of Montreal. I had a girlfriend at the time who was hugely into Of Montreal, and I was kind of fucking with their stuff a lot too. Mountain Goats as well. So there was a lot of indie stuff and singer-songwriters that I was getting into. Decemberists as well, but still maintaining my enjoyment of a lot of that classic punk stuff. And again, once I started reviewing, I started missing some of that straight pop shit that I used to listen to and enjoy. And some of that classic hip hop shit that I used to enjoy. I mean, a majority of the hip hop that I listened to later into high school and in college was like either 80s shit, early 90s stuff. Like I loved Public Enemy, KRS-One, or I was listening to sort of more underground 2000s era hip hop, whether it be MF Doom or like Aesop Rock or Immortal Technique. Immortal Technique was a favorite of mine in college. Those bars were so fucking woke. Bush knocked down the towers. Bush knocked them down. Immortal Technique knew.
It felt very important to listen to that at that time, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Volume 1 and 2 like is fucking incredible. Like it's just such super deep woke conspiracy bars. I was heavy into the fucking, I can't remember how I ran across them, but I downloaded a song or two of theirs off of Kazaa, but I was heavy into that rap group The Coup.
Oh yeah, of course. Which most famously with the cover of them doing 9/11.
Yeah. And again, I was like, and this I think is greatly in part to the fact that I was just a big Rage Against the Machine fan. So when seeking rap music, like a lot of the stuff that was exciting to me was just like, fuck the government, like, whatever type stuff. So if like an MC was kind of bringing that attitude to me, that was exciting, so I was kind of big into The Coup. It's funny because of later learning about the film Sorry to Bother You, I had forgotten or really hadn't listened to The Coup in years. Like once that film started gaining traction, then I started looking into the film and I saw the director. I'm like, that guy looks familiar. Who is that guy? I'm like, oh, he's from The Coup. Like, what the fuck? Which I mean is a pretty incredible artistic transition.
Oh yeah. I mean, also the Street Sweeper Social Club with Tom Morello, not a great band.
And speaking of, you just said, you just reminded me just by saying the word street. In college, I was kind of big into the Streets as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skinner. That debut record was killer. I didn't really know anything at the time about UK hip hop. I didn't know any other UK hip hop artists, but you know, I knew I liked that record, you know, and that was the thing. Like I had a desire to hear a lot of different stuff, you know, hear things that I was totally unfamiliar with. But at the time I didn't really know what direction I was going in. I didn't know what a lot of this stuff meant in a greater context. You know, I mean, probably the only sense of that I had for any genre was punk music, because I was just listening to a lot of the older and classic stuff, and always trying to do research to find new bands that were new to me, you know, that came out back in the day. But again, didn't really know the greater context around any of this stuff. I just was kind of throwing shots in the dark and just listening to random shit on the internet. You know, I remember in college listening to some of the early UK dubstep stuff in the 2000s and not being super crazy about it, you know, but I remember listening to it and thinking like, okay, this is kind of neat. You know, at the time I knew I loved Square Pusher, you know, and I was trying to find other, you know, UK based styles of electronic music. And, you know, it was sort of insane down the road to sort of see Skrillex do what he did with the genre and like blow it up. And it's like, wow, how is this like a new thing to everybody? Like dubstep's been around for like fucking years.
I felt so bad for all the people in turtlenecks in London who were so sad about that though.
Same, bro. Mm-hmm. Same.
They deserve our sympathy.
But yeah, it was just like, just throwing out a lot of nets, casting a lot of lines on the internet, you know, just using search bars and using person-to-person sharing platforms, and sometimes talking with people, you know, because some of these platforms, especially SoulSeek, would let you message people, and you know, you could strike a rapport with some of them, and they'd give you recommendations, or they'd say, "Hey, I have this album that's like not on here. It's like rare G.G. Allen stuff. Like I'll put it up so you can download it or whatever." So you know, just like spending a lot of time online, just, I wouldn't say researching in the same way that I'd study for a test, but like it was kind of researching. It was just like as a hobby, just finding new sounds and just looking up new stuff.
Do you ever remember finding a band because they had deliberately mislabeled their files on like a Kazaa or, you know, Napster, where they'd say it was like so-and-so, it was a demo, and then it ended up actually being like some basically like local band from somewhere?
I had some tracks like that. A majority of them I deleted because I didn't know what the fuck it was, or I didn't like it, or even if I did OCD it like that with how I categorize it, or like whether or not it's the actual thing that I'm looking for. One of the few tracks like that I probably saved, maybe you remember this, there was like this super viral Flash animation on Newgrounds that was like this amazing Zelda video, and there was this song attached to it where this band was singing this ridiculous shit like "Link, here comes to town," and for whatever reason the guy or singing this song sounded a lot like Surge from System of a Down.
Right, this got shared as a System of a Down cover. I remember it, but I honestly, until this moment where you were describing it, thought it was System of a Down.
Yeah, and so everybody had a copy of that, like, you know, on a bunch of different servers and everything.
Yeah.
And they would label it as System of a Down. They would just label it as System of a Down. And I mean, I didn't know, I didn't think it was actually System of a Down the more that I had heard it, and being the big fan of the band that I was. But I didn't know what else to fucking label it. And, you know, like I still enjoyed listening to it. So that was mislabeled. Yes. But I had it because it was what I was looking for. And I wanted to fucking hear it. So
now, given the sort of like wide kind of view that you have of the sort of entirety of like popular music, popular rock music at the time that a record like Enema comes out, are you surprised in 2019 to see the degree of influence that Blink seems to have, not just on, you know, people our age who, you know, still have nostalgia for this era, but for this like entire kind of new generation of kids that are sort of taking the essence of Blink sounds and infusing it into hip hop, infusing it into electronic music, that it's sort of being repurposed by a generation that has no, as far as I can tell, nostalgia for this group? Like, is that surprising to you?
Yeah, it is. You know, a group's influence is always dependent on, yeah, and this is especially the case for Blink, whether or not the trends that they set really take on. versus whether or not, they're actually relevant via their image or their iconography or whatever. Or I guess there are instances where that's true. But in the case of Blink, I don't think anyone would have predicted that their brand of pop punk would still be getting copied and pasted today by newer bands that, look, there were a lot of trends in rock music from the late 90s, from the early 2000s that are dead today, completely dead, just like, totally down the toilet, no trace of them whatsoever, almost, today. Mm-hmm. I can think of a single band of relevancy that sounds like the Blood Brothers did, back in the day. And I fucking loved the Blood Brothers. I don't know how much you listen to them or if you're familiar with them.
We've talked a lot about the Blood Brothers on this podcast, but it's true. That kind of family tree basically ends with them.
Yeah, it's totally dead. It's like gone. But Blink-182, for whatever reason, this particular brand of pop punk, and sure, maybe a lot of it has to do with the fact that they, as far as relevancy goes, they crested a lot higher than a lot of other groups did. Mm-hmm. And also I think a lot of their songs from that era were super catchy and just very timeless radio jams, and as a result of that, I guess there's still kind of a demand for this whole pop punk thing. And who the fuck knows? Nobody has control over, I guess, what's still relevant 20 years down the road. But for whatever reason, it still is. And there are groups that are still kind of toying with this sound. And like you said, these pop punk vibes, these, emo vibes, because Blink has always had a connection to that scene. If even if it was only tangential and it came up in their albums in a very light way, there's always been a note of emo influence in what Blink does. And as a result of that, because of the band's profile and their size, they had an impact on the overall public perception of that sound. And as a result of that, of course, there's a Blink fingerprint on a lot of these emo trap songs. And I also think a lot of it probably has to do with Travis Barker putting in as much work as he does. Sure. He's behind the scenes all over the place, doing drums here, drums there, doing production for this artist, production for that artist, or whatever. Or really, sort of, I don't know how much of where his producer credentials are at, but he sort of seems to be playing this role where it's almost like, a Travis feature can almost be like a cosign in a way. You know what I mean? People will sometimes check out a track because they hear that Travis is on it. Even though it's I think he's worked with hasn't he done a track or two with like Yellow Wolf?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Yellow Wolf's on the Blink EP. There was like one of the
right.
Yeah. So their
So he's done
worlds
stuff
are interlinked. Yeah.
There's a connection with Suicide Boys as well. Which is like, their fans go fucking crazy for them and anybody who has anything to do with them. So, Travis is certainly putting in tons of work to, I think, keep the band's namesake alive, mm-hmm. Which I think, could have a lot to do with it as well.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Now, you had sort of gone off. You weren't paying a lot of attention to Blink. We are today putting to bed the album California. So this is going to be the very last song that we do this like 7-hour in-depth, horror show odyssey about. And I'm curious what your reaction to California was when you first heard it. I mean, obviously you did a video about it, you reviewed it, but kind of in retrospect, what does the mind conjure when you think of the Blink-182 album California, which we are setting off into the sunset with this episode?
I mean, mostly what comes to mind when I think of that record is just how tough, and I, as much as I dislike the album, I give Blink all the credit in the world, but how difficult it must be to try to maintain this very youthful sound into your old age. Mm-hmm. Is really what I think about it. It's there's something about certain types of music, certain messaging that I think doesn't play well once you've kind of coasted past 40. And look, Mark is not the only person who's alone in this. I think there are plenty of moments where Peter Pan syndrome, and it's really kind of getting the better of him and affecting the quality of his songs. I think it's really difficult to be a band aging in the field of pop punk? How do you innovate in such a thing? How do you continue telling stories that are relevant to an audience of people who are supposed to be younger? There are very few genres out there that I think whose fan base can't really be anything else other than young. And pop punk for me is one of them, especially the somewhat bubblegum brand of pop punk that Blink-182 is known for. To sort of continue pushing forward like you guys are still in your 20s and it's still like the fucking "What's My Age Again" video is a tough sell. But clearly they're soldiering through it.
There's also the sort of added complication on this record of losing a longtime member and getting a new member. Have you thought about, what would happen if you had to kick a member out of, the Needle Drop, I guess, project, which would only be yourself, and then who would replace you? Who would be the Matt Skiba in the instance of a Needle Drop lineup change?
Oh God, what a question.
I mean, you got to have an idea, right? There has to be a successor. I mean, God, anything can happen to you, Anthony. I'm sorry to say.
I guess anything can happen to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would give it to either Mike Seatown or I would give it to you. I want so either one of you.
I was setting myself up for that. I really appreciate that so much.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
This song is called "Sober." Josiah, who is the co-host of this spectacular podcast, he himself is sober. He's a keeper of the edge, and you yourself, you also are an edgeman. That is correct, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't partake either.
So tell me about, if I may, and now I'm like the guy being like, tell me about, not drinking and shit. But have you always been straight edge? Do you specifically identify as straight edge or do you identify as sober? Like, how does your kind of, how do you sort of put a term on yourself and what was the kind of origin of wanting to live that lifestyle?
It's weird because drinking and drugging was something that never really interested me all that much. I just felt like I had other things to do, or I just, wanted to just maintain a clear mindset. That was mostly my primary interest. And now I feel like I'm even busier and with more to do and with less time to even do any of that. I've always thought, or I've always had this feeling that maybe when I'm older,
really relax a little bit, kick back, have a Pino.
It's funny to think about it as is this like a part of your identity or your culture, your social group? Well, like when I was in high school, I didn't know anybody else who was like edge at all. Mm-hmm. And if I did, I mean, I certainly wasn't hanging out with them. For the most part, I was hanging out with my friends who did drugs and drank all the time. Or I was hanging out with people who I knew who I was playing bass at the time. And maybe every once in a while I would meet up with some people who played or were in bands or whatever, and we just try to make some really bad, shitty local metalcore or some new metal or whatever. So that was mostly what I was doing. I didn't know a whole lot of people who consider themselves to be straight edge, and I don't recall it being too trendy of a thing when I was in high school. I mean, maybe it just depends on where you were. There were probably music scenes, in more well-populated areas, but, probably even on the West Coast or in the New York area where, and especially in the DC area where there were more people who were sort of living true to that lifestyle. But over in Connecticut, nobody would, not a lot of people were claiming edge,
right?
at least not where I was.
And now, have you ever got the Edge Swatch or anything like that? Have you ever gotten into the gear side of things, the very attractive fashion side?
I've never owned a piece of Edge gear. As much as I've been I've seen a few pieces of clothing on the American Straight Edge website and stuff. And I'm should I rock an American Straight Edge sweater and American Straight Edge sweatpants? Should I do that?
Yes.
It's tempting, but I feel already, because of where I've grown up, there are so many elements of sort of that type of fashion that subconsciously influences me that I don't want to make the conscious decision to make that leap. I've done a few, I do these funny, little vibe check pictures on my Instagram where, I'll just be rocking an outfit or whatever. And, I had a hat tilted a little bit. I had like a sweatshirt on with like an Oxford shirt underneath it, like with the collar sticking out of the, the crew neck. And somebody was like, why do you look like every fucking aging hardcore guy who's like, not like in the metalcore scene anymore? It was like, okay,
you're just picking it up, man. It's just in the air.
Look,
out there.
It's like, I know, look, I didn't even try to, I didn't even try to look this way, but it's just in my blood. It's in the water,
you can't do anything about it.
Area. Exactly. So, I can't help but in my own weird, subtle ways to look like a jaded metalcore guy from the metalcore scene. So I don't know if I want to actively embrace it.
Right. You don't want to steer into that too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand it.
Because once I steer into it, I'll just be stuck in it forever.
Right. That is just your entire fucking life at that point.
Exactly. It's like avoiding drinking when your father's an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to take that drink because once you get on it, you won't be able to stop. And I want to try to give the false impression that I'm not a metalcore fail son. You know what I mean? So
I understand. It's also like it's a very like sincere and severe analogy for not buying branded sweatpants as well.
Yeah, it's also the reason I don't own any camo shorts. If I own a pair of camo shorts in this house, I will wear nothing but the camo shorts.
Oh, you just know. Yeah, your body just wants them.
Exactly. I'll be wearing them all the fucking time, Dude. So it's like I have to not have a pair of camo shorts in the house. I have one pair of black denim shorts, which is bad enough, which is like sometimes I just want to wear those all the time. Are you
wearing them right now? Yeah, you must.
No, I'm not wearing them right now. It's tempting. It's tempting to wear them right now.
Because they're just in the house screaming at you.
Exactly. Please wear me with a band shirt. I can
hear them, man.
Please wear me with a fucking band shirt. Put your Doc Martens on.
You would look
and it's
so
done.
sick.
And it's done.
You got to do it, man.
So I'm trying not to look like that all the time.
Okay, I get that. No. Yeah, I can appreciate wanting to draw that line. So if people want your, complete thoughts on 9, the most recent Blink-182 album, you've given them extensively on your channel, but I do want to know where you think the band can possibly kind of go from here, or conversely, where do you think that they will go? 9 is a different sort of beast from California. It's clear that they're going to sort of keep this train rolling as long as they can. What do you think 10 looks like?
God, 9. If California, I did not like California, but to me, 9 was like almost nightmarish in a way, because I commend the band on saying like, okay, look. The usual pop punk thing, it's not aging well. We need to change. Not only is it not sounding good with the way that we're currently trying to, embody it, but this is not the zeitgeist right now. So we need to try to stick to our guns, stay true to our sound and our background, while simultaneously embracing elements of production, songwriting that sound a bit more current day when it comes to the pop landscape right now. And, that means glitzier production, some beats here and there that are a bit more, new pop or even trap influenced. That means embracing more vocal processing. There are some points where the vocals on the record to my ears just sound fucking inhuman, that they're so touched up, they're so glossed up, they're so, you could even say like they're airbrushed in a way. There are points where the instrumentation just doesn't sound as raw as it used to. And there are points where it is compressed to fucking death. But so much pop music and so much hip hop music is these days. So, they really put their fucking sound through the meat grinder. And I don't know if there's any closing that Pandora's box at this point. I feel like they're kind of just like, rolling down a slippery slope right now. Like, what are they going to do? Like, go, turn around and write the most hardcore purist pop punk album like ever made now? Like, they're just going to continue, especially if the numbers are okay, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and make their particular brand of pop punk sound more palatable to audiences of people who, I don't know, liked Fall Out Boy's pivot into electronic music.
Right, that very specific subset of pop punk fans who were like, now this is better.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they just pick like another maybe like aging trend that's due for a comeback in kind of the, you know, punk hardcore world. Like I've been pushing for a big return of Mysterious Guy hardcore on the pod. And I think if they went back and they were like, we want to sound like Fucked Up, but 10 years ago, you know, that could be interesting. That could be a fresh pivot, you know, something new to be mined there.
It would be, but it's like, it's such a fucking, the likelihood of that happening is about the likelihood of, I don't know, another Mad Villainy album, you know,
right?
and it being as good as Mad Villain.
Yeah, that's fair. But you know, like we did get Mark Hoppus on this podcast, so I sort of believe that anything is possible.
Okay, all right.
And to be honest, you know, someone else got their dream on this podcast at Blink-155. Of course, get Anthony Fantano on Blink-155. Your dreams have been realized. Anthony, before I let you go and review like 100 albums tonight, you know, we've mentioned a little bit the channel, mentioned you got a podcast. Is there anything else that we should promote here again in hour 7 of this journey into sober by the band Blink-182?
Patreon.com/The Needle Drop. And also check out my second channel on YouTube, just titled Fantano, where I just talk about a lot of music industry stuff, commentary, track reviews, all the odds and ends that don't necessarily make it onto the main channel, who is just kind of just dominating the album review field at this point because there are just so many albums to cover. There's so little room to do much else as far as content. So the Fantano channel just makes it easy to do something a bit more personal, down to earth, talk more casually about, you know, everyday realities of the music industry and more contextual things and not just kind of be nerding out about whether or not, you know, a certain chord progression sounds a certain way or whether or not a bridge on a record was all that good.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I want to say this as well, you know, before we kind of wrap up, which is that, you know, you've consistently always been very kind of generous with me with your time. I mean, early on when I was doing This Exists on YouTube, we did a collaboration that I think is like still benefiting me, you know, like that there are people who found, you know, my YouTube channel because of you and your support of that. And then, you know, there are people who came to this podcast because of that. And so I still get people telling me, you know, like that they found some dumb thing I was doing because of Anthony Fantano. And so for me and at Blink-155, thank you once again for offering me some of your time to talk about something so important, which is, of course, Devil Driver.
Thanks for having me on too. Walk down memory lane with you, and right now I will be, as soon as I get off this call, streaming the latest Devil Driver record to prepare my review of their entire catalog. I'm going to be doing a catalog review of Devil Driver's
just
work.
What the people want, man. You're just the dream maker tonight. This is very exciting times.
Yeah, Devil Driver, the self-titled, the fury of our makers. Hold on, I'm clicking. Hands.
I couldn't hear the clicking. I was like, wait, do you actually know the name of like a Devil Driver album?
Us Till the End, Volume 1. That could be a compilation. I don't know. The Last Kind Words, Trust No One, Winter Kills, Pray for Villains with bonus tracks, Beast. Yeah, I'm gonna.
How extensive is this discography?
I don't know. Let me double.
I mean, I look forward to learning all about it in this video.
Devil overlapped a little bit, so God, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 records.
Incredible. Well, the people demand their content, and I will let you get to it.
I thank you very much. Thank you very much. Devil Driver, worst to best, coming out soon, covering the entire Devil Driver everything, and Des Fefara, one of the greatest frontmen in metal of all time.
Greatest ever do it.
I know I fucked up and it might be over, but let me call you when I'm sober. I'm a dandelion, you're a 4-leaf clover, but let me call you when I'm sober.